what do you think is the most depraved network you guys have come across?
Organ trafficking coupled with satanic ritual abuse. This is happening in communities all across the United States at a level you can't imagine. We were introduced to a young woman. She was 21 at the time that I was introduced to her, but the reality was she was trafficked by her own parents since she was 10 or 11 years old. The public face of this family, you would have thought that they were your stereotypical white picket fence American. The dad was a fire chief, who respected fire chief in the local community of the state. That same level of evil and depravity is happening here. It's just we don't care to see it. That system, that's the one that I'm like, we have to do something. Burn it to the ground.
Well, let's talk about this, because this, thank God Amon just brought this up right away, because reading this, can you break it down? So essentially the state of Colorado is looking to push through a bill that, for better or worse, is legalizing prostitution.
Yeah, and they're using the legalese terms of decriminalizing, but it's legalizing the commercial entity of prostitution. And there's so many different layers to why this is bad. But for me, working in the counter human trafficking space, I'm sure we'll get into this, they're masking this as this idea of freedom and autonomy for the women. They want to give women the ability to, well, my body, my choice. And what it does, what this language actually does, is actually the complete opposite. It creates and legalizes the illicit network, the illicit system that oppresses children and women altogether. It is literally creating a pathway, a legal pathway for slavery. It's absolutely insane that this is happening at the state level in Colorado. I mean, that's just one piece of the pie.
What even, and we talked about this offline too, like on the last page. So section 25, there's a safety clause that essentially says, well, I'll just read it. The General Assembly finds, determines, and declares that this act is necessary for the immediate preservation of public peace, health, or safety, or for appropriations for the support and maintenance of the Department of State and state institutions. I mean, what is there any, if you had to play devil's advocate, like what argument are they trying to make around this?
There is no argument behind it. It's literally just the state of Colorado pushing through things that they want that reinforce their ideology. Mm-hmm. It's not for the preservation and safety of peace. Like, you can't make the argument that prostitution, you cannot make the argument that prostitution in its illegal sense is causing safety at the state level. So what they're doing here, essentially what that means is the way the process should go is there's a debate on the House floor. It goes, if it passes, then it goes to Senate. If both of them say, yeah, we're doing this thing, then it has to go to, has to become a ballot initiative, has to go onto the ballot to where the people of Colorado then get the ability to vote on it. That's how it's supposed to go. But that safety clause, what it does is says, regardless of what the ballot initiative says, we as the state of Colorado are going to do this regardless of what the people say. And that's my biggest issue. The government of Colorado is elected. It's an elected body for the people. They're supposed to be the voice of the people. And if the majority say, hey, this is not good for our state, and you've got a legislative body that says, well, sorry, we're going to do it anyways. Excuse me, I thought you were there to work for us. And I get really passionate about this because I'm a veteran. I was a cop as well. Like, I fought for the protections of the system to give the people a voice. And what you're doing in my own backyard is literally endorsing slavery in with the guise of public safety. Like, come on, are you freaking kidding me? It's all smoke and mirrors. And Colorado's they're doing this through our Second Amendment rights too right now. There's a huge fight on the 2A, magazine bans, cap limits, what you can build in your own basement with like custom printing and things like that. Colorado's notorious for trying to do these safety clauses of, well, in the preservation and the peace and safety of the union of the state, regardless of what the ballot or the people say, we're just going to do whatever we want. So There's a lot of layers and issues to this. Colorado, outside of this, Colorado, there was a bill. I can't think of the bill right now. I apologize, but there was a bill on the House floor that actually was proposing to raise the penalties for kids that for people that had trafficked kids. So like literally rape of children, trafficking, things like that. There was a bill on the floor to raise the penalties for the perpetrators. Like, hey, we're going to put a stand on this in the state of Colorado. If you do these things to kids, the penalties are going to be almost to the like, and it wasn't insane, but they were increasing the penalties pretty significantly
As they should.
to make a standard. And it failed. It failed in the House. Like, so, like, what do we do in Colorado? Are we protecting kids or not? Do we care about our kids or not? Like, so now we've got, you struck down a bill to raise the penalties um, against child traffickers, literally kids that are selling, people that are selling kids for slavery, um, and worse, satanic ritual abuse, all of these things that involved in human trafficking that don't get seen in the public eye. Um, and then a month later, we're proposing a bill to legalize prostitution. And the other thing about this too, this bill that isn't clear in the language at all, but like if we're going to legalize a system of prostitution, so what are you going to you're going to take taxes on that then? So you're
Mhm.
going to take taxes on a woman's wage that's selling her body for sex? And how are we going to have any oversight of what is actually happening to these women? How are you going to endorse the so-called protections in the act? What you are going to do is you're going to legalize the system for the illicit network to come from underneath the ground to be overt, and then you're going to take taxes supposedly on that. So the government of Colorado is going to be complicit and taking revenue on the sale of women selling their bodies for sex. Like that's what are we doing?
Mhm.
Like that's insanity in my mind. Now I come from a biblical worldview, a Christian worldview, but any guy or gal with any sort of morality, even the freedom, like my right, my body, my choice movement, like these are arguments that if you actually break them down, it just makes sense that this is not good for Colorado in any
I
context.
was going to say, could you maybe explain a little bit too? Because I think the immediate backlash, when we were kind of talking about individuals that, again, the my body, my right,
Yeah.
and those that maybe look at something like OnlyFans or porn, where a majority of the revenue is going to the woman, they're making decisions, at least conceptually, that are their own. And then, but can you explain when you say slavery? Because I don't think a lot of people understand, and you've seen it firsthand, kind of what that network actually looks like and how it does lead to something like this. Again, we're not saying every instance. Again, there's OnlyFans
Yeah.
models that just do OnlyFans and whatever,
Yeah.
but the vast majority are not in that type of line of work in terms of it being like a freedom or a choice. So can you maybe kind of explain what you mean when you say that?
That's a deep question. Well, first, I think slavery in the way that we envision it in modern context of, you know, chain gangs and things like that, like actually bondage. Um, we don't get to see that the level of evil and depravity in that form, but the slavery that we're seeing in what OnlyFans and prostitution and the blatant pornography issues that are just running rampant, it breaks down the individual identity of the person to the point where they see themselves as a commodity. So the slavery that you're actually seeing in these women isn't an overt of like, now this does happen of, well, here's my handler, here's my pimp, and like I'm locked in a basement, and that does happen, but it starts with identity. And if you break down the morality of an individual to where they're transactional and my only value is based off of my looks and what I can perform in a sexual capacity, I'm a commodity. I'm a resource sold just like a freaking cow or a chicken or gasoline. And it's the complete antichrist spirit of we are created in his image. We're chosen sons and daughters of him. And It's all about identity. So that's one piece. It starts with the mind, but if you can break down the mind of the individual to where, again, I'm just a commodity, I'm only valued because of what my looks and what I can perform for others, it opens this door for people to manipulate and extort that. So then you've got majority men that will come in and see these women as an opportunity to exploit and create wealth, and power, all of the things of the lust of the flesh, you know. So when it comes to modern slavery, you see everything from the slavery of the mind to the overt illicit networks that are literally, I mean, we're probably going to talk about the Epstein files, these
Yeah.
like government level entities that are complicit in the sale and trafficking, not just for sexual means, labor, organ trafficking, satanic ritual abuse, like the modern human trafficking, slavery world is so much bigger and deeper and darker than people realize. It's not just transactional sex in a basement somewhere. It's literally these women and these kids, their entire lives are stolen from them and they're commoditized for as a resource, and it's absolutely disgusting. It's literally breaking down the identity of humanity. So when you're fighting, one of the biggest fights are the issue in the human trafficking is you're literally fighting against the antichrist spirit of
Hmm.
who are we, what are we, what does it mean to be human? So
Yeah, it's truly out of anything like the real good versus evil fight. Like there's
yeah,
no every other war for the most part, there's levels of gray to it.
yeah.
This one's about as black as white as it could
Well,
possibly get.
well, in it, that's a good point. Like I fought in Afghanistan and Iraq in the global war on terrorism, and there was an element of the enemy in that context, radical jihadist movements, the Islamic side of the house. There was a point of the evil I saw in there that I could understand. Not saying I endorsed it by any means, but it was an ideology that made sense. I mean, they were radicalized because of the way they were upbringing. They believe their belief system endorsed their actions, to defend an ideology. It's the same. I mean, you could make the same argument that as a soldier putting on a uniform, defending the nation, I was doing the same thing. Um, I mean, no, that and that's a stretch, but you can understand it. I could understand my enemy and where
Mhm.
his thought process was. When we started the ministry and we started seeing things in the human trafficking sphere, I truly couldn't compute it. My brain couldn't register the level of evil that I was witnessing and how you could reduce humanity down to a commodity at that level. I mean, I'd witnessed it a little bit in Afghanistan and Iraq, but I'd never been present of actually seeing, okay, here's a trafficking network and the level of oppression that is placed over that individual. But stepping into the space and fighting in this in with Legacy Relief Project, um, I couldn't wrap my brain around it. I couldn't make sense of how could you allow your heart to become so hardened and so darkened to your fellow man to reduce them down to literally a commodity, like a transactional resource. It doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
So
Would you say at this point that you believe true evil is a real thing? That there's individuals that simply cannot be saved and
I'm not a theologian. So this is a good question. But I'll answer it from my biblical, my worldview, again, based and rooted in my faith in Christ. So um, I don't believe that anyone is too far gone from God's grace. Um, but I do believe that God allows free will. And if I continuously reject the grace that He has given, and the free gift of salvation, and I harden my heart of saying, no, Lord, I'm going to do what I want, I do what I want, I do what I want, it allows the heart to be hardened. I mean, we saw this in Pharaoh in Exodus. This is the story of God. The scriptures say God allowed his heart to be hardened. Um, and a lot of biblical texts, I think, mistranslate that and say God hardened Pharaoh's heart. Like Pharaoh could have been redeemed at any point. He could have just said, yeah, all right, Israelites, go. So to your point, I don't think anybody is too far gone from God's grace, but there is a point where I say I have like in faith, my faith, they say the rejection of the spirit, where we're eventually God will say, okay, you've made your choice, and we'll leave you to your own demise, for lack of a better term. Um, and at that point, I don't think you can be redeemed if
Mhm.
you just reject and allow evil to just permeate through you at every level. And I've seen it. I mean, guys' eyes just completely blacked over and glassed over. Like, I don't know if you're even human at that point. I know that sounds evil in its own sense, like how I could see another human as not being human, but I think that there's a point where God says, "All right, you wanted this, it's your free will." So yes, there is very real evil in this world, very real evil, and it manifests itself in humanity. That's why we have warfares and trafficking and fights and depravity and poverty. All of that's because of the evil nature of humanity.
Well, that was a hell of an intro. I didn't know we were going to go that long before I got to introduce you.
Yeah,
But Ben Corbett, you spent decades operating in some of the most dangerous environments around the world, serving in the U.S. Army, CIA, and private contract work. Today, you lead the Legacy Relief Project, an organization dedicated to confronting and dismantling some of the darkest forms of evil in the world in some of the most hostile regions, particularly one that we just discussed a little bit there with the growing crisis of human trafficking.
yeah,
Through this mission, Legacy Relief not only works to rescue and protect those that are vulnerable, but also seeks to spread the message and mission of Christ. Welcome on the show.
yeah. It's a pleasure to be here. I know it's been a while. We've tried to make this happen, and I'm thankful for your grace and excited to be here.
Like I said, it's going to be an awesome partnership moving forward. I'm really excited for everything we get to do today and having guys on the show in the future and having you back on. I think it's going to be kind of like an awesome partnership. And even what we just highlighted there, I think the work that you guys are doing is second to none. It's truly a good versus evil fight. And I'm excited to dig into that. I think we're just barely scratching the surface, and we've already kind of covered some profound things that I think are
Right.
going to shock people,
Yeah.
even just seeing with this legislation getting put through. And I'm going to be linking that below, by the way, so everyone can check it out and read through it yourself.
Yeah.
But figure kind of just get started. You know, I know you grew up in Florida. Do you maybe just want to jump into your background a little bit, let people know?
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate the intro. It makes me sound like some special dude, but I'm just a dude. I grew up in Florida in a little town called Palmetto on the Gulf Coast. Very early on, was drawn to the military. I come from a generational family of service. So both my grandparents served in the military, both career. One was Navy, one was Army. But my grandpa, the one that I spent a lot of time with, was World War II, Korea, Vietnam. I mean, earned a Silver Star in the Battle of the Bulge. His feet froze. Um, just transporting gallons of gas and ammunition between the lines. So like uh, another uncle, 25 or close to 30 years Army Special Forces. So like these are the guys that influenced my upbringing. And my father. Like my father was a big influence of just how to fight for your family. And so yeah, raised in Palmetto, Florida. High school, I was a shy kid. I was actually voted most shy in high school. um, yeah, so definitely didn't come to my own until after I left for the military. But yeah, joined the army at 17. 2 days after my 17th birthday, my parents took me to the MEP station. I'm like, this is what we're doing, and I think my dad was like, well, I guess we'll sign his life away because it was funny. Actually, dialing it back a little bit, I had skipped 17 days straight of high school prior to that. Um, for some reason, my school put a 17-year-old kid in charge of the attendance. So, like, literally, my first job at school is I'd show up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and they're like, "All right, Ben, handle all of the like the attendance for all the kids." I'm like, "All right, yeah, I'm at my classes today." And then I would just leave and I'd go ride roller coasters at Busch Gardens. Did that for 17 days. And So, needless to say, I was failing all of my classes, um, my senior year of high school, and had a real come to Jesus moment of like, hey, if you want to join the army, like if you want to fulfill this contract, you have to graduate. So my last 5 months before graduation was doing school in the morning, and I had to go back to school in the evening to recruit my 17 days of straight missed classes. But yeah, joined the army at 17, did my senior year of high school, and then left right after I graduated. Did basic and AIT at one station unit training at Fort Benning as an infantryman. Um, got stationed at Fort Carson in Colorado right out of that. And I went to a reconnaissance unit. So I was very lucky that my entire Army career, I was a light infantryman and I was a true 11 Bravo. I wasn't armored. I wasn't, didn't jump out of the sky. I was, if we needed to get somewhere, I put a heavy rucksack on my back and we walked there. That was my deal. Yeah, I did a lot of reconnaissance work, and I don't know how far you want me to go into my army background, but that's all part of my story of how I got there today, to where I'm at today. So
Yeah. Well, so I mean, looking at the background, obviously, like you said, you did tours overseas. Can you maybe just walk us through what some of those look like, and also, I guess, like how did this, as you mentioned, you come from a military family, you kind of had this idea growing up. It's like that's kind of the goal.
yeah,
What was the experience like versus maybe what your mindset was as a kid going into it? Actually,
great question. I think every young boy has this. We glorify military and soldierly and warfare and all that, and I definitely fell into that. You know, dialing back to my upbringing, my grandpa would literally give me the Army Times magazines. Like he would just have stacks of them, and I would just go through them and flip through, and just glorified this idea of being a soldier. Um, and when I first joined, you know, going through basic and IT, one, you're very quickly realized, oh, this sucks. This isn't all rainbows and butterflies of getting to, you know, do the cool stuff. Um, but yeah, like I think it's really comes down to identity. Like my whole identity uh was wrapped up in being a soldier. Like that was my DNA. So how that translated into my perception growing up into the realities of training up for war and then deploying to Afghanistan, facing combat real like firsthand. Um, let's just say it broke my identity,
hmm
because everything that I thought it was warfare was going to be um, gets shattered in a moment. When you see what humanity can do to itself, um, there's nothing glorifying in war. Nothing. There's, I guess, the only positive you can see in it is the brotherhood that you build with the men and women to your right, um, and the ideology that you're fighting for. But outside of that, it's just it's the worst of humanity.
hmm
Um, so my my deployments, my military service, like I said, joined the army, ended up at Fort Carson. I was in a unit called 361 Cavalry, a light infantry unit, deployed to Afghanistan in 2009. Um, it was a tough deployment. Again, doing a workup for that and getting on ground. And I had risen through the ranks pretty quick. At 19 years old, I was a fire team leader, leading dudes through the Hindu Kush mountains. And like, what in the world are we like? Had to grow up real quick. But that identity of soldier was the only thing I knew. That's like how I perceived myself. So I just leaned way into that, and I had some pretty tough engagements on that one. Some come to Jesus moments, and it really shaped the trajectory of my life. That first deployment did, because my belief system was fractured, and all I had was being a soldier. So
hmm
like I leaned into that hard.
When you
So
say your belief system shattered, and again, as comfortable as you are going into any
yeah.
of these situations, but How do you mean, like, belief system in what you guys were there to do, belief system in the structure of things? Like, when you say that, kind of, I guess, what was that belief system?
Yeah, so I was raised in a Christian home, so I was raised with that foundational element of grace, but I hadn't allowed it to like resonate in my heart. And then joining the army, when I say belief system in your question of why we were there, no, I still to this day believed in what we were doing in Afghanistan. Like the fall and everything really, really upsets me. Um, but when I say belief system, it was again glorifying warfare, seeing the depravity of humanity, and because I didn't embrace my my upbringing of faith and grace. Like I had nothing to grasp other
Mhm.
than just seeing the depravity of combat and what humans can do when you're fighting each other. And um, yeah, it really came down to like putting on like a mask really of like, all right, I don't know how to deal with these emotions. I don't know how to deal with what I'm seeing. I don't know how to deal with the stress of leading guys in combat. So I'm just gonna nut up, put on a mask, and just drive on. And the mask of soldier, I wore it well. I, you know, I was good at my job. I was a good soldier. I raised quickly in the ranks, got promoted quickly, and um, but not dealing with the emotional issues. It definitely came to a head down the road, and the physical. So I don't know if that really answers your question.
No, that I mean, I guess digging deeper on that too, I mean, and this is gonna be a concept that comes up
Yeah.
time and time again, but the idea of evil, like, when was there a specific situation or individual, whether it's on those you're fighting or maybe even those around you, that you think really kind of signified or was an example of kind of the idea of what war truly was versus, again, what I think a lot of people in pop culture try to make it seem like?
Yeah, I guess going back to the belief system and that identity and fractured, the one thing I was able to latch on in warfare was the brotherhood, the camaraderie that you build with your brothers in arms. Because truly at that point, you you're dependent on the guys to your left and right. Um, and that was the only thing, that was the only like comfort that I could make sense of what we were having to deal with. So I really do like, I know it's so cliche, but the brotherhood of men that you forge in battle, like it will last a lifetime.
Mhm.
Like you can't unbreak that. Like there's still to this day, I mean, I'm in contact with the guys on my first deployment, and um but the level not being able, I mean, the other piece too, I'm a 19, 20-year-old kid. Like a 19 and 20-year-old kid, I don't know how to handle or deal with my emotions and to begin with. And then you throw me into a combat situation. Um, all of that emotional seeing and witnessing evil and the depravity of it, I didn't deal with it. I didn't know how to process it. So it just kind of went blank. And I'm like, all right, well, the only thing I got is brotherhood, military, and I did believe in what we were doing, but that wasn't really at that point, it wasn't my influence because I didn't have I guess the intellectual depth to really think like, what are we doing here policy wise? Like,
Mhm.
why is the U.S. Army in Afghanistan? What are we doing here? Um, I was just told to be there, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to be a good soldier. I'm going to do what I'm told, and hopefully get my guys home.
I imagine it's hard to see the end goal too when it's like you're having these, you know, minor engagements or everything,
Yeah,
and you come out on the winning side and you're like, but what's next? Like, cause like obviously it's not, again, war is super easy. A lot of people will think, you know, go out, we fight, we win or lose, but there's just so much
no,
tiny things that have to be happening all around whatever given country it may be in that day to day, it's like it's hard to know if you're ever making progress type of thing, right? I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think the American public, we say we've been in all these wars, but the reality is we haven't fought a real war since probably Vietnam.
Mm,
And we can see what the effect of policy did in the Vietnam War. Policymakers, limiting the level of what warfare actually is. I mean, World War II, the only reason why we won is because we actually said, "All right, we're going to do whatever it takes to win this thing." And when you think about the global war on terrorism and that whatever that threshold of winning versus losing is, um, we were very handicapped in Afghanistan and Iraq because of policy and um, the general American public doesn't understand what it takes to win war. It's evil. There's no, there's no, when it comes to total war, it's just you versus me, and
mhm,
I'm going to do whatever it takes to win. And that's one thing that the US military is very good about is putting morality constraints into warfare of we're gonna fight war within uh, the context of a morality code of defense of innocent life. We're not gonna overtly target civilians. At least that's what we said we did. And I don't know if that's the truth anymore. Um, but we used to fight with a code of honor. Um, and yeah, I know I'm kind of getting all over the place, but it was Afghanistan was tough to see those thresholds of are we actually making a difference or not, because we weren't really fighting a war when I was there. I got there in 2009, in a war in a total war mentality. It was more of a policing of making sure that the ideologies that we were trying to imprint on that culture had an ability to not only survive but thrive.
mhm.
Um, so it was an ideological fight, and it wasn't really total war. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, I think it definitely does. And I mean, the other idea of it is that the group you're fighting isn't fighting fair
Yeah.
in the sense where it's like they're essentially doing whatever they deem necessary without taking into account.
Oh yeah, they're fighting total war because
Mm,
we're in their home, and they're fighting for not only their home but their ideology. Um, So whether you were pro us being Afghanistan, Iraq or not, we were the occupying force. So um, it was an uphill fight. Again, I stand for why we were there. I mean, I
mm,
don't I don't endorse the Taliban's policies or radical jihadists and the oppression in any context. Um, you've got radicals in any sect when you put religion and politics together. So I believe while we were for what we stood for while we were fighting there, but yeah, they were fighting a total war mentality, doing whatever it took to fight guerrilla in the caves, outside of the caves, and we had to fight within the constraints of an entity that fought from a place of morality, which I agree with. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have done that, but when you put those level of constraints on your fighting force, and then you're expecting complete and total uh, outcomes like a win loss scenario, there is no threshold black and white in that type of war. It's how do you destroy an ideology? You can't.
mm.
You're not. You can't bomb an ideology out of existence unless you kill everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's really like a weed or a virus or
Yeah,
something where it's no matter how you're never going to exterminate the whole thing.
yeah,
The idea of ISIS, we thought we destroyed ISIS in 2019. And they're back right now, arguably as strong as
yeah.
ever. And um,
I mean, Jolani, we've got the president of Syria an ISIS
yep,
was in ISIS, and we put him there, which doesn't make any sense in my mind. I mean, I was pretty heavily involved in countering ISIS, and now we're openly endorsing putting those people in positions of power. Like,
hmm.
okay,
Did you have any exposure with seeing things like human trafficking stuff at this time as well. It's pretty, or, you know, um, child exploitation, because that tends to be, and I've had a lot of guys on the show that have mentioned that was kind of one of the first times where they were really getting exposed to just how far depravity can really go.
Yeah. Um, yes, absolutely. But I didn't have the mindset to understand what I was seeing.
Hmm.
Um, because the lens that I was looking at it through was through the lens of, okay, this is an Islamic nation, um, and this is just part of their culture. At least that's initially what I saw of like the level of oppression and the lack of rights of women. Like that was the first real big telltale sign of like, hey, something's off here. Like, you'd go into these regional or these community like shuras and meetings with like the district leaders, and the women are literally beaten to get back into the buildings. Like you, a foreign man isn't allowed to even look at a woman in that context. I mean, they're completely viewed as property. They have no rights under under Islamic. Yeah, and we're doing it here.
I
I
was
mean,
gonna say, like, it's funny you say it.
they have no rights. They're literally owned by their husband, and that system is so patriarchal and oppressive. So that was the first telltale sign of like, hey, something's off here.
Mm.
But again, I couldn't label that this is trafficking. Um, but that's exactly what it was. And then when it comes to the kids, um, that really messed me up hard. I mean, that like there was an instance on my first deployment. We had two kids that would bring water up to us. They'd carry water up from the Nuristan River Valley. I mean, I was at a OP called OP Barilai. It was an observation post that set above the Nuristan River Valley, and they would bring fresh water up to us. They'd bring pasta up because all we had to eat was MREs and K rations or whatever the army was calling them at that time. And so they'd bring up fresh food and water to us. And um, the Taliban eventually found out that these kids were supporting the Americans. And literally, when I say supporting, they got excited. They would get excited to come up and see us because we had, dogs up there. We would give them baseball cards and candy and um, soda pop and things like that. And just kids being kids. They wanted to see something new and exciting. Um, and the Taliban took those two kids, cut their heads off, and threw their bodies into a ditch. Like that. Why? Again, going back to my point, like I can't understand that level of evil. I don't understand because a kid is supporting something you don't believe in that dooms them to a death sentence. Um, and so like the kids hit it, struck a nerve. And I'll tell you, every guy within Legacy Relief Project has very similar stories that to the one that I just shared. Um, and I think that's why we're so passionate about this fight. Um, the kids, the level of oppression on the children in that culture is pretty demonic. Um, Again, they're seen as commodity, and you've got ownership of them, so they're moved back and forth between families and communities. It's just, yeah, it's bad. ISIS made a lot of their money on the sale of human beings. I
I
mean,
want to get into that in a sec as well, but just a quick question with that is, was there policy from the top down that would tell you guys to either look the other way, or, like, as you mentioned, again, if we go towards people that maybe support this bill, or more like progressive thought would say, well, it's culture, and obviously not with the direct murder, but some of the more sexual exploitations and stuff. Um, and it seems like, and I'd hope this isn't the case, but I've never actually asked, is was there any type of policy that was from the top down that said, like, hey, just don't mess with the status quo here? This is kind of,
I would say yes, not in a direct like, hey, you turn a blind eye to this, but everything that we did was, oh man, that's a tough question. Yes and no. I know that's a cop out. Sounds like a cop out answer, but on my second deployment, we would actually deployed with these things called, I think they're called cultural support teams or something like that. And the whole job of these folks that would go out on patrol with us was to supposedly meet the people within their culture and create pathways for their culture to thrive. Um, and I agree with that to a sense, but there's radicalized sects of the Islamic mindset, just like there are in modern Christianity and Catholicism and Buddhism, you name it. Um, so when it came to policy, the majority of the policy that we enforced both in Afghanistan and Iraq was truly about that I from my angle was deliverance and freedom, giving the people on the ground the ability to have their own mindset and right to choose, hey, this is how I want to live, and to support their cultural identity. But when it came to those policies of supporting and enabling and building infrastructure within that local ecosystem, it enabled the radicalist ideology as well. It was a really kind of a give and take. So there wasn't a direct policy that said, "Hey, close your eyes to these things," um, but on the same token, we kind of enabled it in a sense because, well, we're gonna keep your culture in place. Again, I believe it. It was when you're fighting an ideological fight. It's nearly an impossible. I mean, it's a counterinsurgent fight. It's a very difficult problem set to fight on a policy side.
Yeah. I mean, without a doubt. Well, like,
Yeah,
if I was in charge there, it'd be like, if you see someone touching a kid, it's like, go ahead and shoot them. But and a
yeah,
lot of people, I'm sure a lot of people in the comments would love to say the same thing, but it's infinitely more complex to that.
it's infinitely more complex than that. Yeah, I'm not saying that as a cop out. And back to your point of what you asked earlier of, is there a point where someone can't be redeemed? That's where that comes into place. When there is somebody that has hardened their heart to the point where they're murdering kids and using them for ritual abuse and doing that level of evil. Um, if I was wearing a uniform, we would be dealing with that in a very lethal manner.
Hmm.
Legacy Relief Project doesn't fight that way. We fight with love and redeeming light of Christ. We work through partner forces that can still get the same outcomes. But I think the most important thing to articulate is evil manifests itself through humanity, and you need men that can have the ability to face that evil head on, regardless of the outcome.
Hmm.
Um, and we're seeing the lack of that in our world so rampant right now, where men won't we can't have a healthy conversation, let alone stand up for something we actually believe in. So
Do you think we should also, I think this is an issue with the US, is, and of course, religious freedom is one of our
yeah,
mainstays. It's a key to what defines the US. But at some level, there does have to be a discussion around, as you mentioned, like there is a connection, especially in Islamic countries, Iraq, Afghanistan. I don't really know Iran as well, but Syria, etc., where that type of child exploitation or the way they view women is very different from what the US culture is like. But it seems like people are afraid to have that conversation on those that come here and want to maintain that. There's a bit of,
yeah,
we're scared of approaching and being critical when, I mean, as you see, it's like if you let that kind of fester, it can lead to some really dark places.
yeah. Obviously, I fought for the Constitution. I believe in the right to freedom of religion. I believe if you want to come to the United States, immigrate the legal way, and you want to live through your cultural identity here, by all means. Um, but one, don't transplant that on other people. I think there's a whole layer to this question. I think that we could talk hours on about national identity,
Mm.
because if you don't have a national identity, then you don't have a nation. And there is a national identity of America that set us apart from across the globe that we are losing, and that's why we are seeing things like child exploitation rampant. America used to stand for something. We used to stand for morality and righteousness. I stand in the camp that I do believe that America was founded on principles based in religious freedom. Um, that we were a nation founded on people that had a biblical foundation. Um, I mean, we made a lot of mistakes along the way, but if you come to this nation and you want to live your life, through your cultural identity with religious freedom of Islamic, Islamic foundation, I'm all for it. But the moment you cross that threshold of enslaving kids or oppressing kids or gender ideology, like you can't project that on children. They don't have the ability to process it, and it's as soon as you put kids at risk, that's the threshold. That yeah, hard line in the sand on that one. Hard line in the sand.
As there should be.
And as soon as if your ideology, I mean, we're getting a little bit into a different sector here, but if your ideology and your mindset, probably going to piss some people off here, but if your mindset tells you I need to go cut my genitalia off, like, hey man, we've got some problems here. It's not what we got to work through this. Anyways, that's a whole nother can of worms.
No, it's a fair point. And trust me, I think this podcast, every episode, I piss somebody off. So it's that's part of why we do it.
I love it.
But with that, it's like, yeah, again, I don't think it's such a tough conversation because people immediately want to connect it with the religion, and every religion was made thousands of years ago when societies were entirely different. Like if you go to when Christianity was very early on or anything, and you showed them a picture of what society was like today, their mind would explode. I don't think they could even conceptualize. So standards, norms, conventions, all those have shifted. The key dynamics that make a lot of these, like I always say, Islam is a religion. A lot of the UFC fighters that I support, that I follow, you look at Khabib's and Islam's, like some of the more darker culture aspects, they're nowhere near, and they adopt more of like the very disciplined practices, and it turns them into outstanding human beings. And it's like it's not necessarily saying one religion's better than another, not necessarily saying that this religion's bad. It's saying that certain cultural norms, whether it's directly associated with religion or an area that's religious in itself, those have to shift. Like that's, and I think people are afraid to have that conversation because they immediately want to make it one thing or another. It's like if I'm talking about this, someone might come on and be like, well, these guys hate Islam. And it's like, no,
absolutely
that's not what we're saying.
Yeah. Well, yeah, to your point, my belief system is rooted in a base of love all humanity, and that's how I view and process the world. But I think the big problem we're seeing today is when it comes to these polarizations is give me one case in point throughout antiquity or history where when you integrated religion and politics that it worked out in a good way. You can't integrate the two. You can't, and that's one of the problems we're having right now is when people say Islam or like the gender ideology stuff. They're trying to imprint mindsets, the way I view the world, and integrate that into politics and policy. Like I think politics and policy is a lot simpler than that. It's the threshold that we all agree to. If we live in this nation, we're going to all adhere and agree to this system and rule of law. And that gives you a lot of freedom within that rule of law. But the moment we try and put ideologies into that and integrate faith into in politics and religion, it muddies the water very quickly. And I guess, let me clarify, I do think that it's important that men and women step into politics as policymakers and allow their faith and belief system to influence that. But that's the beauty of the American system, is everybody has the right to free speech, everybody has the right to make their own opinion, and everybody has the right to, if you're a citizen, to run for office. So like if you want to change policy, the way that America is run, do it the right way.
Mm.
Run and voice your opinion on a public stage and have the election system um, change it. Not don't force that onto people in comment sections on TikTok
Yeah,
and
they
whatever.
yeah, well, it's
Because
like
you're not going to make any change anyways. You're just going to further create a deeper divide.
yeah, and if you have no willingness to at least be open minded,
Yeah.
I mean, what's the point of even a conversation at that
Yeah.
point? Because
Exactly.
it's not a conversation; it's an argument.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah. And I had to learn that the hard way in like me just growing up of, you know, very much, oh, I'm right, you're wrong, and that's the end of it. So
Mhm.
you're just an idiot. I mean, I was the disgruntled vet for sure. But by the grace of God, he definitely changed my mindset. But yeah, to your point, man, like yeah, if you can't sit in a room with somebody that is opposed to you in mindset and say, well, let me try and understand how this person is processing information and how they see the world, what's the point of even sitting down and having that conversation? Like, I think that that's one of our biggest issues in the United States right now is we're seeing the, whether you're left, right, center, whatever, we're seeing people come together and it's all about debate and it's not about discord. It's debate of, all right, I'm going to sit down with you, Connor, and I don't believe the way you do, so I'm going to try and make you believe the way I believe. And that's why we get the we're seeing the segregation go deeper and deeper and deeper because we can't say, all right, I hear you. Let's find a medium ground somewhere in the center, somewhere in the middle to where we can, agree to disagree, but at the end of the day, we understand we're both Americans.
Mm.
And yeah, I mean, again, that's a whole nother section.
As I say,
Yeah,
we'll kind of dive into that. And people that watch the Rick episode, and I know we're talking this offline.
yeah.
At some point, it almost seems like it's a little bit on purpose with the way that it gets pulled. But I did want to jump into the ISIS thing that you mentioned there. But before that, I'm just curious: did you run into anything while you were in Afghanistan that was more direct to human trafficking? Whether it was you guys hit a house and found a number of individuals that looked like they were going that direction, and kind of adding to that, was there any indications at this point of something outside it being under Taliban control? So more of like that more generalized kind of trafficking network?
Mm. Not anything, not anything that was just blatant, like in your face. That's a tough question because I don't have any evidence to support this, but I do believe that the Taliban receives a lot of revenue from this, from sex slavery
Hmm.
and labor slavery. Um, I believe that wholeheartedly because I've seen it in other radical sections of the jihadist movements. But in my time in service in the army in Afghanistan, no, I didn't see I didn't see blatant networks that are just right up front in your face in that context. But I think that the whole ecosystem is oppressive in its structure, if
Hmm.
that makes sense. The whole system, oh man, I'm probably gonna piss people off. The whole system in that worldview is um or the Taliban worldview, the governance of the Taliban is oppressive in nature. It's all about manipulation and control. It's yeah. But to your point, no, I didn't see anything directly while wearing a uniform. No.
Yeah. I was just curious because it's like, it's one of those things too. And again, like as we dive deeper into your guys' background, some of your operations, but then also just the calling it an industry is kind of dark, but it is kind of an industry as
Yeah.
a whole. Um, I imagine that if you're within that network, that's like one of the best recruitment grounds or
Well, and
areas of purchase.
Yeah, and I think modern, like, these sound of freedom movements and all the buzzwords around human trafficking, it's great because it builds awareness, but it's also created kind of a bad stigma or an understanding of what trafficking is. Um, Not everything is this massive illicit trafficking organization. I've seen, and we've worked cases all the way down to individuals, parents trafficking kids. And um, when I say trafficking, it's that transactional sale of a commodity. If I'm going to take my child and I'm going to use them as a commodity and sell them for sex to this person. Um, see that a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
that's both here in the United States and in Afghanistan. Like I would say in Afghanistan, the majority of what we would say someone being trafficking is actually being enabled through the familial network, families just doing it because again, the cultural system allows for it, and it's accepted. Like there's a reason the term diddling boys like that happens in that community a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's there there's nothing black and white when it comes to human trafficking. It's not something you can just put a Webster's dictionary on because the way it's done, how people are sold, how they're commoditized, it's so different case by case by case. Now, you've like I said, you've got people that enable it through the familial unit, parents selling kids, all the way up to transnational illicit trafficking organizations, the cartels, Taliban, ISIS. Like these are all organizations that function and are able to pursue and grow their ideology based off of the sale and transaction of human beings.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like the cartels, the open border policies, and all of those things. Um, the reason why the cartels are so powerful isn't because of drugs; it's because of the sale and manipulation and control of human beings.
Really?
Oh my gosh, yeah. The most valuable asset on earth is a human.
Mm-hmm.
It's a naturally, I mean, you don't have to, like, if I sell you a bag of cocaine, it's a one and done. You've got to come back to me and I've got to create another product and send it back. But if I control a human being, whether it's through sex slavery, labor trafficking, or organ trafficking, whatever it might be, I mean, I get to use you until you're used up.
Yeah, and their
It's a
value is
continuous renewable stream. Like the coyotes that are moving people across the border, like that's facilitated by the cartels. And that person, his whole living is based on a system of you're a commodity and I'm going to move you across a border into another system where you're controlled, manipulated, and oppressed. That like, and I know I'm opening a huge uh, bag of worms here, but like, yeah,
I'm good to go down. I've talked about the
the
cartel.
yeah, I
Like,
mean the cartels are so powerful not because of drugs, it's because of the control and manipulation of human beings.
what what is their end goal? Like, what are they bringing them over for? Is it being sold into prostitution rings? Is it being like what are you seeing when a lot of them do get brought over?
Well, I think that the cartel's goals is the same as any other organization that's in power. It's to stay in power
Mm-hmm.
and to gain more power and control and resources. So it's about controlling my kingdom. I have power and control, and I'm going to maintain that, and I want to grow it and status and all of that. So I think that that's the motivator between about what allows these systems to thrive. On the tail end, like the when they get brought into the U.S., um, it's more on the labor trafficking um, side of the house. Not so much now. I mean, ICE is putting a pretty strong hammer on that, but labor trafficking was a pretty big one, and it's an ecosystem that's all sustainable. Like labor trafficking would have been the biggest um, capital raising arm of it, but that's controlled also by the sale of drugs here in the United States. I mean, we're a nation addicted to drugs, which are brought in by the cartels, um, and prostitution, sex, all of that stuff. It's all the lust of the flesh, man. And the cartels have done a really good job of capitalizing that market.
Well, we're going to be genuine too. I mean, again, we'll deep dive Epstein and more here soon. But
Yeah.
again, if you're Epstein or whoever Epstein was working for, and you're looking to get, product essentially in their mind, I mean, that's the organization you go to because they can clean it up, keep it quiet, and get whatever you want. And then if you're the U.S. government, FBI trying to track them, I mean, they know what they're doing. Sadly,
Yeah. Um, yeah, and oh man, it's not just the cartels either. It's the whole ecosystem supports and enables it. I mean, you've got problems across the board on so many, whether it's US government, Department of Justice, Homeland, cartel, illicit networks in Haiti. Like there's so many enablers, cultural, government, policy, all of it is an ecosystem that enables the sale of human beings.
yeah.
The whole thing, every facet of it. And I'm sounding really doom and gloom. I'm not trying to.
No,
I'm
it's
just
no. That's what I honestly, that's
yeah,
kind of what I figured this show would be is in this episode. Cause again, I think people just turn such a blind eye to the whole situation, to the concept. I mean, talking about the Epstein files, there was a document in there that essentially said the FBI found one of his associated trafficking rings in Mexico, and they just turned a blind eye to it because, again, it's like to the levels that this goes up to, and it's people just, and I don't know if it's a mix of people they're so scared of acknowledging the truth that they want to pretend that it's just not there, or if that it's just so crazy that something can get this extensive, this evil network can get this extensive that in their minds it just can't possibly be this bad.
yeah. I think there's a lot of truth in everything you just said on both sides of the house. The truth of the matter is, if the U.S. government wanted to put an end to trafficking and actually cared, they could do something about it. Same thing with the DOJ, war on drugs. Like if we wanted to stop the flow of drugs into the United States, we could do it. Like, but again, these are things that allow for power, manipulation, and control. And I think that a lot of the systems of our governments right now, we've lost our way. We've lost our way in a deep, deep sense. And the only path forward that I can see, the only path forward is transparency. Transparency. Like we talked a little bit of this about offline, but even whether every document in the Epstein files are true or none of it's true, or if you sit in the middle, I don't care. Neither side of the house is a hill I need to die on. But if there are legislators, members of Congress, all the way up to the President of the United States that have been named in these documents, the only path forward is transparency. And regardless of the outcome, be man enough or woman enough to face the consequences of your actions. And I promise you, any policymaker or person that is in a position of influence or power, if you came forward and said, hey, I'm on these documents and here's why, and you're transparent about it and you release it, we as the people will trust the leadership to lead us through the fallout. Like, I believe that wholeheartedly. I believe that in the veteran community too. Like, if there was transparency, regardless of how damaging the fallout would, if somebody had the balls to say, here it is, yeah, we messed up, We're complicit in this or not. Let the cards fly, because right now you can try and scrub and delete, control alt delete all you want, DOJ. It's
Yeah.
not going away. like like overnight, like we're talking about, like I think they deleted another 65,000 files last night while we're bombing Iran. Like,
hmm Did you see too that they also came out this week that in 2019 the FBI got hacked and 50% of the Epstein files is a generalized word here, but just stuff around the case was hacked and deleted,
wow, I did not know that.
and they don't have access to that too. And we're already not, we've only gotten 50% of that 50% that
Oh,
remain.
wow, yeah,
S-
and they're like I said, control deleting that as fast as they can.
mhm.
Again, if our government actually cared about the protection of kids, this would be the big, like, this would be the number one thing that the government of the United States would be working on. Like, the ramifications across the world of what's happening. I mean, you're seeing prime ministers resign in the UK, former prime ministers. You're seeing, um, you know, commerce officials. Like, there's got to be some truth and in reliability to whatever happened in the Epstein network. I don't know if we'll ever get the truth. Um, but yeah, I think the American people are the reason why there's so much smoke and noise around the Epstein files is because the American people are tired. We feel
Mhm.
like we've been manipulated
Yeah.
and we feel like we're being controlled. We feel like the narrative is being controlled. Um, and circling all the way back, like, government, we don't work for you. You work for us.
Mhm.
And I think it's really important in 2026 that state governments and the federal government hear that you don't work, we don't work for you. You're there to support the American people and defend the American people. And when the American people are asking simply for transparency on something that is near and dear to most Americans' hearts, I would highly encourage those policymakers to err on the side of transparency. Let's listen to the American people.
Well, we kind of opened up the topic already, so I
Yeah.
guess we might as well delve down it. But I guess just starting with Epstein as a whole, I mean, how do you look from a bird's eye view? Like, how do you just look at the situation, the case, and the individual? Like, what the Epstein files signifies? Like, how do you look at that?
Hmm. Not that my opinion matters because I'm just a dude, but I've been around the block a few times. I do think it shows the level of manipulation that is happening at the government level, regardless of where you sit on um, the truth and depth of it. Like, um, I do think that Epstein was controlled by powerful entities, whether they were government entities or not. I don't have any evidence to support that. Because of my background, I do believe that it feels like an intelligence operation. Whether that was endorsed by our government or foreign governments, I don't know if we'll ever know that. But the fallout that you're seeing in those documents, it's a honeypot operation through and through. I mean, and we've seen our intelligence community do that abroad. We've seen Russia, we've seen China, we've seen Iran. Like, the intelligence community uses the same playbook pretty much.
Mm.
So, um, whether, like I said, whether it's host nation governments or foreign governments that controlled him, I think that there were people within positions of power that had influence, and there wasn't information flowing, um, and it was all on the backs of children,
hmm
controlling politicians and judges and law enforcement entities and foreign governments because of the depravity of humanity, lust of the flesh.
And the situations you've seen firsthand. Obviously, with the files coming out, I think a lot of people, for those that have been in the know and like been looking at it for a while, doesn't come as a surprise. But I think this is the first time people are getting exposure to how evil a lot of these situations really were. From what you've seen, how how much credence do you lend to some of the statements and things that have been said and some of the items that have popped up in the files in terms of like the way they were operating, stuff they were doing? You know,
I
there's stuff
believe
that get
I
very
believe
dark.
there's 100% truth
Hmm.
because I've seen it. I've seen it in Haiti and DR. I've seen kids be sold for sex, labor, and the really unfortunate ones are satanically ritually abused until they're burnt out and then they're executed and their organs are sold on the black market. We've seen it. We've worked those cases. So what you see being revealed in the Epstein files, I think that we're not even actually seeing the actual depth of what happened behind closed doors.
Hmm.
So what is being pushed out, I 100% believe that there's truth to it. Because again, as our ministry have seen it real firsthand. I mean, we went and did training in the Dominican Republic, training their customs officers on countering the illegal organ trafficking trade across their border from Haiti. It's like this is real. Like this isn't a movie. This is really happening. Like kids are literally being sold, satanically ritually abused over and over and over again, and then executed and cut up and harvested for their organs. So some rich dude can fly to the DR and get a new kidney and live for a few more years.
How much cross pollination do you think when you're seeing those communities are ones that are actually within the Epstein hemisphere?
Well, the last I saw, there was over 4,000 mentions of Haiti in the Epstein emails. So I think that do I have evidence to that? I just saw that report a few days ago. So I don't have any evidence to back that, but I do believe there is a lot of cross pollination between, well, I can say this for a fact. The cartels are financing and manipulating the majority of the gang activity in Port-au-Prince. So the outright civil war that is happening in Haiti, majority of it is financed, influenced, and armed by cartel activity, Chinese influence.
Is there like a specific cartel, or is it like all of them kind of picking sides, like same way we may do a proxy war or something?
Um, it's more of a proxy fight because what they're doing is they're propping up these militia leaders, these gang leaders as proxy leaders, puppets in Haiti. And it's Haiti is a very complex issue. But to your point of cross pollination, is there this big centralized effort of these illicit networks? I don't know. I truly don't know. Um, I believe that there's levels to that. I think that there's definitely structure and organization and strategy happening across the globe um, by the cartels and things like that. Um, but is it this consolidated, big, massive, bunch of evil dudes in a room? I don't think so.
Hmm.
I think it's all of these individual um, illicit, evil folks that just trying to gain more power and influence and control.
Yeah, well, I imagine too. It's kind of like honestly, drugs are a very similar circumstance you can look at where it's if you follow the money,
Yeah,
you start with the local drug dealer on the corner, it could be right down here down the street.
yeah,
Uh, you move to the local gang in the area that, they're the ones selling, they own the territory. You move up to the wider area gang, the state gang, whatever it may be,
yeah,
goes all the way down to the cartel. And eventually you find out that cartel, their main leader, their main investments coming from a China or even the US in some circumstances. And it's like, that's kind of, I guess what I was looking at is like they may not all be in coordination in the sense that you may have an individual in Haiti that's gladly trafficking people out of
Oh
the
yeah.
cartel that has no idea that the cartel is trafficking to Chinese network, US network, whatever it may be. But
Or that he's being used as a puppet either.
exactly, yeah.
I mean, like the really unfortunate thing in Haiti is you've got these gang leaders that the only reason that they're fighting and violent and trying to overthrow the government is because they've been told that's the only way to show their value and worth. And it's just another form of slavery. Even though you've got a gun in your hand and you think you've got power and all this control, you're killing your own people. Like, how does that make sense? How did in what world does it make sense that you killing Haitians as a Haitian when you've been oppressed, your entire nation has been oppressed since its foundation because you were born out of a slave revolt? In what context does killing your fellow countrymen make sense that now somehow things are going to be better?
Mhm.
Um, and it's the these bigger entities, the Chinese influence, the economic ecosystem, the cartels, the illegal gun trade. It's all of these outside influencers that are telling this gang leader in Port-au-Prince, hey, you need to fight your rival gang, go kill him. Oh, and the Haitian government is bad. Now, the Haitian government is corrupt, rampant through and through.
Yeah.
I mean, that's obvious. But it is a system of governments that has a constitution, a loose constitution that enables and equips the Haitian people to have a country of their own, to have their ability to have elections and free speech and all of the things that we want and hold dear in a free society. Like they've got a system of government in place that allows for that. It's just these outside influences, cultural, economic, humanitarian crisis, all these influences that are leading to this point of desperation of, well, the only thing I've got is an AK-47, so I'm gonna go create my own kingdom.
Mhm. Do you think they look too that chaos creates opportunity? Because
Oh, absolutely.
if the eyes aren't, with everything going on that we just mentioned, if you're a human trafficking network, it's probably the easiest place in the world to walk right in.
Hide in plain sight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
get as
mean,
many individuals as you may need
yeah, I
for
mean,
whatever you
well,
need.
and like in Haiti, there aren't any birth records. So when a kid disappears in Haiti, they truly disappear. There's no record of them. So it's the perfect ecosystem for the sale of human beings because you're hiding in chaos and the there's no system to track this human being of point of origin to who they are, when they were born. None of that exists, which creates a huge headache on the aftercare side if you actually pull a kid out of that situation. Like, okay, who are you?
Mhm. Yeah.
Like, where did you come from? And when you've got a kid whose entire life has been in slavery from orphanage to orphanage to orphanage, they don't know who they are, where they came from.
Mhm.
So it creates, yeah, the chaos definitely creates an ecosystem of, oh, I'm gonna get mine. I'm gonna take mine for sure.
And then I guess now is probably a good time to backtrack a bit. Just go. You did mention ISIS, and I think that's an interesting kind of string to pull. There is just how that's really kind of a mainstay and how they make money, and really kind of a key part, which I don't think a lot of people think about when they think ISIS. They think terrorists, they think beheadings, but they operate to make money as well in a lot of different circumstances. So can you maybe break that down and what you've seen around there?
Oh yeah, I mean, 100. A lot of the financial bandwidth of ISIS was through the sex trafficking slate. I mean, the oppression of the Yazidi women, like, and just the straight up purge of the Kurdish people, or at least the attempted purge of the Kurdish people by ISIS, was all. Um, it's twofold. It's the sale of human beings, but also drugs as well and arms. It's kind of its own ecosystem, but yeah, the I mean, there's stories coming out of Iraq of ISIS. Literally, these women were so trafficked so much internally by the ISIS militias that, raped thousands of times. And by the time they actually get pulled out and rescued, they're so broken that they go home and commit suicide. They've been rescued. They're no longer in that life, but because of the level of depravity that was afflicted on them, they don't see any way out. So they just kill themselves. But as far as like the ecosystem, um, yeah, the sale of sex slavery in the Middle East is very rampant. Syria, Iraq, to northern Iraq, pretty rampant there. Obviously, that was more 2016, 2017, that time frame. But yeah, the very much an ecosystem or an organization funded by the sale of human beings.
Does it tend to be more localized to the region, or is it not
Yeah.
really bounded?
Yeah, and it's an internal sale too. Like again, like you've got a ISIS militia fighter who earns a minimum wage, and where's he spending his money? He's spending his money at buying some girl to have sex with. So it's a self-replicating system. Yeah, it's very much a um, localized. I mean, I hate to say this, but localized market. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Did you have circumstances where you cross paths with them at any point?
Oh, ISIS.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And yeah, that was. I did a lot of work in northern Iraq when I was with the State Department. Yeah, it was. That was part of the reason, like, kind of tiling it back into my why where I am today. Um, it was seeing the evil that was being afflicted out of the ISIS movement, the fight that the Kurds and the Peshmerga were fighting against it, and the promises that we were making to support the Peshmerga and the Kurds that literally overnight said, "All right, we're out,"
Mhm.
and seeing the fallout of that, of, oh well, maybe we are not the beacon of freedom and protection of humans that we say we are. I mean, yeah, that took, like, working in that space took me to a really, really dark place, because at that point, like, the mask I was wearing was America. We're the beacon of freedom across the world. We're doing the right thing to protect innocent life. And I really got to see firsthand that policy, not people on ground, there are really good people in those organizations, really good people that believe in the American mindset of everyone has the right to freedom. Um, but the policies that were being put out way above my pay grade was not about protection of innocent human life. It was power manipulation and control. So when you saw both sides of the coin, it's like, what the frick are we doing here, man? Like,
Mhm.
are we here for the Kurdish people or not? Are we here for to support the Peshmerga? Um, I mean, because literally part of the Iraqi campaign was allowing the Kurdish people a right to a vote.
And to
They,
live, honestly. Yeah.
yeah, and to live. Like, all right, it's up to them. They should have the right. And it just seeing the policy of what was happening at that level, filtering it down and seeing the two dichotomies of, hey, we're promising one thing, and then when push comes to shove, yeah, hey, sorry, man, you're on your own. And seeing the outcome, the fallout of actual human life being ended because of that, yeah, that took me to a really dark place.
So I guess before diving deeper on that, I guess just laying out a timeline for people to understand where we are at. Um, so this is the point where you had left the army and were you
I was a
with the CA at
contractor.
this point, or you're working for
It
it?
was State Department.
Okay.
Yeah, so State Department. I was a WIPS contractor working within the intelligence community in that space as well. Yeah, so I'd left the military. I was medically retired in 2016. So in 2012, I got hurt in Afghanistan, broke my neck and my back, was able to limp on in the military for a few years, but ultimately lost the fight of a med board, was medically retired in 2016. And out of straight up anger, disgruntled vet of I can still do my job. While I was still on medical leave or my like retirement leave, I was in training with the State Department to go back to Iraq. Um, so yeah, this would have been post military. I'm working in the contracting world. Um, I did that for a few years, and then yeah, like I said, seeing the policy and the reality that what we stood for wasn't what I my belief system was
Mhm.
behind. It led me to leave that. Left contracting in the Middle East in a very dark place, um, and was completely lost. Took a job working in the oil industry. I was a DOD guy, so northern Montana, Idaho, Nebraska, Keystone Pipeline, DAPL, all that stuff. Um, I worked as a security contractor up there. Like that was a very eye opening experience for me. But again, completely lost. Had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. I guess you could say. And my whole world system was just cracking and breaking. Now I've got um, my identity as soldier has been taken from me. My identity of, well, America stands for something has been crushed before my own eyes. I'm physically broken. I've got a broken back and neck that's causing all sorts of nerve issues. My marriage is crumbling. Um, I'm literally I'm literally trying to fill the void in my heart with anything the world has to offer. And I'm running from all of my problems like every other veteran does.
Mhm.
So I'm just, well, all my entire life, all I've been told is I'm good to carry a gun. So I'm gonna, I guess, keep carrying a gun. So I end up in that world and dialing it all the way back. I was raised in a Christian home. And as I'm just trying to feed myself with all this world and nothing is working, it was at that time, working in the oil fields, um, working on Indian reservations and just seeing the level of oppression and slavery that's happening in those cultures. I'm like, man, I got to do something more. I've been through this life of experience. How can I give back? And it wasn't rooted in my faith yet, even though God was starting to work on me. It was more like, all right, well, maybe I can go into law enforcement and I can teach the next generation a few skills that maybe will lead to safer communities and a better place for
Mhm.
my kids and whatever. Um, so I started actually in the process of getting recruited by the marshals. Um, this would have been, what year would this been? 2021, 2022 ish, 2021. Um, yeah, 2020 and 2021. Started getting recruited by U.S. Marshals, and my recruiter was like, "Hey, man, we're in a hiring freeze, so take any job in federal law enforcement you can get, and we'll laterally transfer you over." Um, so I went home on leave. Had a buddy of mine that was a police officer with Colorado Springs Police Department, but he started his career in law enforcement at the Air Force Academy as a Department of the Air Force police officer there. He's like, "Hey, I know the commander. I can get you a meeting." I'm like, "I don't know what these guys do, but sure, give me a meeting." So I think I'm the only guy in the federal government that walked in with a physical copy of my resume without an interview, walked into an office and walked out with a job offer in the federal government. So I went in, had this meeting with a guy named Chris Blevins, really good dude. And yeah, I walked out as a job as a federal police officer at the Air Force Academy. That got me rooted for the first time in my life. So I'm actually home, which was a big problem
Mhm.
because I can't run from my problems anymore. It's like, oh crap, like my physical, mental, all this stuff. I got to deal with it. I got to deal with my wife, I've been neglecting and manipulating and abusing, not physically, but emotionally for many, many years. Um, I got to face all these demons that I've put off for many, many years. And it was at that time I got back into church and God really, really started cutting away all of old Ben and all of the pain and crap and it was in that season that I'm like, all right, Lord, I know I've been created for for a reason. I know I've been called for a purpose. I know you've redeemed me for a purpose. I know I've been through all of these things. I've been trained in all of these different skills. Witnessed warfare. I've seen the depravity of man for a reason. Use me, God. Use me? Like, I don't know what this looks like, but use me. Um, and that's what led me to literally jump off the deep end, resign from a GS position, which could have been another retirement, and start a nonprofit.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when did Legacy Relief start first
August.
presenting itself in your mind?
It started in a garage with my pastor um, in August of 2022.
Mhm.
Me and a buddy of mine out of 10 Special Forces Group were sitting there, and him and I had a very similar mindset of we just want to do more. He was frustrated with the regiment, where the military was going. He had been promised all of these things. Oh, you're going to be a Green Beret and do all this, you know, you're going to live the motto to free the oppressed. And he's like, I don't see this at all. So he was frustrated. I was frustrated. And with our pastor, we were just like, well, let's do something.
Mhm.
And dialing it back probably 5 years from that point, while I was at the State Department, um, I had come home on leave. I went down to Florida to visit my family, and my sister, who is a rock star in the faith, had been praying for my redemption for a long time. She told me about a ministry in Haiti that she had gotten introduced to, and she's like, "Hey, they need guys to come down and teach their security guys. Can I connect you?" And again, 5 years before the inception of Legacy, this is how God plants seeds in our lives. I picked up the phone. I'm like, yeah, I'll talk to him. Picked up the phone, call him, and just in the arrogance and pride of where I was at in that life, I'm like, hey man, yeah, if I get some time, I'll go down to Haiti and I'll teach your dudes some stuff. Just so arrogant and prideful and thinking I'm like God's gift to eat green earth, you know. Um, but and I never did anything of it. I never went down there, but that seed had been placed. So fast forward to, all right, man, I just want to do something more. I'm going to resign my job and do something. Start a nonprofit of don't even know what it is at this point.
Mhm.
That little nugget in the back of my mind was, well, pick up the phone and call that ministry in Haiti and see if they need help. So I did, and the security situation and the threat in that nation had divulged significantly since
Yeah, the
when I had talked to him.
assassination.
Yeah, this was after Moise's assassination. Um, Obviously post earthquake 2010, all that stuff. So the nation had really spiraled out of control. So when I picked up the phone, that ministry was like, yeah, we need you yesterday. Um, and again, Legacy had no idea. I had no idea what Legacy Relief Project was, other than we just want to go in and help. Um, and yeah, that's really kind of what was the launching point of Legacy, was a lifetime of warfare, putting on masks, recognizing that this world had nothing to offer, and God breaking all of these idols in my life, and revealing a new identity in Him. Of, look, I've called you by name. He redeemed every aspect of my life, every aspect of my life. I mean, there was a point in my life um, where I put a gun in my mouth out of just depravity, and like I got nowhere else to go. By the grace of God, didn't pull the trigger. Um, Rescued me out of that, and fast forward to that stepping off in faith moment of like, Lord, you saved my life truly in every sense of the word. I'm yours. And that was I guess the launching point of Legacy, of just, all right, God, I'm jumping.
Jumping away.
I'm jumping.
I got to put you in connection with Jimmy Watson. I
Yeah.
don't know if are you familiar with?
Yeah, name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he was SEALs, worked with McAfee,
Oh yeah.
was doing PMC work, and then like went off the deep end very heavily. Like
Yeah.
at one point, I think was doing security to cartels and stuff, like
Yeah.
very all over.
Yeah.
When everything was caving in, he ended up having like a very eye-opening religious experience, and
Yeah.
it's totally shifted, and it's changed his life in a very similar way where you're highlighting, where it's like he was spoken to and really felt driven in the right direction, and it's shifted around. So I do want to get you guys introduced. I think
Yeah.
that'd be an awesome area. But I guess um adding in, just since we mentioned it there, how do you look at that assassination that happened? Because I know there was a lot of weirdness around it. Operators, claims the CIA, no patches, etc.
Yeah.
And as we mentioned, like chaos creates opportunity. So
Yeah.
just how do you look at that whole situation?
Yeah, great question. I don't think that the Moises assassination was like a CIA coup attempt. I mean, there's systems in place. I mean, we're seeing it now. I mean, we propped up a new prime minister, and that was all agency,
Mhm.
literally within the last month. So when it comes to Moises and his assassination, I would be more in the camp that it was the bourgeoisie that was trying to. He was making a lot of he was shaking up the establishment in Haiti quite a bit, um, affecting the little kingdoms of the bourgeoisie, and I think the bourgeoisie outsourced it to corrupt politicians that had been exiled, who were able to raise capital and then hired dudes with beards and guns to go and try and do something.
Mhm.
Um, and I think it is as simple as that. I think it. I think people try and make Moises' assassination into something that it's not. I mean, not to say like again, I don't have any evidence to support this. It's just me speculating off of what I've seen and how I mean, I've been to Haiti now, I think 13 or 14 times in the last 3.5 years. Not saying I'm a subject matter expert by any means, but I understand the cultural kind of dichotomy there. And I think it's just it was a simple, violent overtaking of power.
Yeah.
And to your point, kill Moise because he's making some shaking some things out, and then in the chaos, we'll make our move for power.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that even that whoever was behind it ultimately failed, because it was out of Moise's assassination that in that immediate chaos, the gangs really capitalized on that vacuum, and the nation's been in all out civil war ever since.
Do you think those are also circumstances too where there's just so many different players in the game? So like
Oh yeah,
someone could think, hey, I like, let's say again, as you mentioned, and I think that's extremely likely where it's we go outsource from a group of guys, whatever, they're
yeah,
gonna come in, take care of the problem. If you're a cartel or even like a higher up group, you know that they're probably gonna fail, but you let it happen anyway because you want to take advantage. Like, is there just so many hands in the pot here just trying to take advantage of situations and
100. Yeah,
playing chess?
you hit the nail on the head, man. That's just Haiti in a T. It is an ecosystem that is truly survival of the fittest. So you've got such gaps between the political and economic elite to ultimate poverty. And everybody in that ecosystem says, well, I can take as much as I can, and I'm going to, because that's just the, I mean, Haiti, without getting too in the history of Haiti, Haiti has had a difficult story since its inception. It was born out of a slave revolt. I mean, they won their independence out of the from the French Empire. The United States was the first nation to recognize them as a state, which I'm very proud of us for doing in the back of that. So they broke their chains. They earned their freedom through fighting for it, just like we did. Um, but I think in that, the early, mid, late 1800s, the death of empire was really affected Haiti. I mean, the repatriations. I mean, the French put a for the France to recognize Haiti as a nation. I don't know what the financial commitment or repatriations were or recuperations were, but it was like in modern sense trillions of dollars. Haiti just paid that off, I think, like 3 years ago.
Yeah, I remember
So
reading
like the
on that.
economic oppression, like, all right, yeah, we'll recognize you as a nation state, but we're going to throw a debt on you that is absolutely impossible for you to pay back. So essentially, you're going to be our slaves. Just you're an economic slave now, and we'll control your entire ecosystem. And that's what happened. Um, and then you have, again, I'm a history major, so I geek out on this stuff. Like, how did we get here? But when it comes to modern Haiti, it's out of that survive. Like, the only way I'm going to survive is by taking what I can get and holding on to it tightly. Um, that's why you see so much corruption in Haiti. It's not, there are folks in Haiti that are corrupt because of they're just not good people and they want to control their own population. But I would say the majority of the corruption that I see in Haiti is simply out of the cultural system that built that and survivability. I'm a national police officer in Haiti. You've given me a badge and a gun. You've given me authority now. You haven't paid me for 9 months because there's no money there's money pouring into the national police, but it gets filtered off by all of the political elites. So the poor police officer sitting at a checkpoint in Lakai who hasn't been paid for 9 months, who's got a wife and kids, but now has got a badge and a gun. If I'm in that stance, yeah, the next car I see, I might take a bribe too. Like, oh, you want to get through? Well, give me 10 slippy slappies and be on your way. It's like I gotta take care of my family.
It's the same thing within Mexico. I always explain that. I mean, we've had tons of guys on that have discussed the cartel, and in the comments, you always get people like, we could just go in and take care of them today. And it's like, we could, but there's no money in that. And
Right.
that tends to be,
Well, and it's not like those like most of the gang dudes in Haiti, they're just freaking kids, man, that are just lost and they're broken. And the only place that gave them some sort of sense of identity was the guy who gave him a gun. Like, all right, I'm a 16-year-old kid. You've given me an AK. Now I feel powerful. I feel like a man. And like, if you go in and you just blow all that system up without a plan of, all right, how are we going to reintegrate and heal? Like, you're going to leave them in a much worse place than they are now.
have you seen a lot of instances too? I know the CJ cartels pretty notorious for this, but essentially human trafficking, but for soldiers. Like
Oh my gosh, yeah. Dude, Congo. I mean, talking outside of Mexico, Congo, they're in the Congolese civil war right now is 100%. The rebel factions are almost 100% child soldiers that are trafficked out of Uganda.
really,
Yeah, I mean, they're getting pulled out of the Uganda. These militias will come across the Ugandan borders to these rural tribes, steal kids out of their communities, and then enlist them in their militias. I mean, that's happening all over Africa. And in Mexico and in Haiti, where it's more of a drug cartel based mentality, it's not this over, I'm going to come in and steal you, Connor, and now you're enlisted in a militia. It's we're going to give you a sense of identity. The ecosystem is already just primed for these kids to join. Like, why, if I was a kid living in rural Mexico, why would I put my hope and trust in the Mexican government? Like, what have they done for me? Like, I've got the cartel coming and
paving roads,
and like, cartels smart. They're winning the ideological fight. It's a counterinsurgency warfare, and they're doing a great job. They learned a lot watching us in Iraq and Afghanistan over the last 20 plus years. They're like, yeah, that's going to work if we can stick through and actually do it. So, like, if I'm a 16-year-old kid with no opportunity in Mexico and I want a tribe to belong with, of course I'm going to go work for those guys, because where else would I go?
Yeah, I've had some journalists on that have discussed like just that, where it's they basically come, they offer you a sum of money, probably money that you'll never be able to make in your life otherwise, just to like do radio work, and then people that refuse at points too. And again, like CJ and J was very notorious for this, where they basically grab them, bring them to middle of nowhere, and are like, you're a part of it whether you want to or not. And then they'll do things like make them have to behead someone, like
Yep.
very dark stuff that,
You're in it now.
yeah.
You're in it. And then that shame of like, well, I've crossed that threshold. There's no way out.
Hmm.
And going back, I don't think anybody's past the point of redemption. God's grace, his finished work on the cross, he can redeem anybody from any point of darkness. But yeah, man, it's a brutal system. And like what you see in Haiti, I keep shifting back to Haiti. It's just where most of my awareness of this space is
Yeah, we're
because
gonna dive into
we
this one
work in
too.
it. Like you've got the gangs that just recruit out of the slums, and it's an easy pickings of, hey, you're starving, we'll pull you out of the slums, and we'll give you identity, community, brotherhood. We'll give you a meal. So there's very much a recruiting process that's pretty seamless out of the gutters and slums in Port-au-Prince and other communities in Haiti. But there's another aspect of this that once they're in the systems, um, the slavery just repeats itself. So like the majority of the human trafficking that exists in Haiti is actually enabled by NGOs and orphanages in Haiti.
Really?
Most of the yeah, and I'm gonna probably be flagged for saying this, but it's true. The What you see in Haiti, what allows a kid to be sold into slavery, what would allow that ecosystem to thrive? You've got to have chaos and depravity. So in Haiti, what allows a child to be sold into slavery is the lack of food and the lack of education. So what happens is you've got a family that's got a kid, 5, 6 years old, that's truly starving because of the humanitarian crisis that has plagued the nation because of the war and because of just the economic oppression over the nation. You've got kids that are truly starving, and you've got parents that are desperate for any element of hope. So then you've got somebody that comes in under the guise of, hey, we're an orphanage. We will come to you if you give us your kid. We'll guarantee that your child has 3 hot meals a day. We'll give them a roof over their head, and we'll guarantee they've got education, K through 12. Well, and so this family is like, absolutely, please take our kid. And I'm not saying all the time, but the majority of it is these orphanages are then the conduits for illicit networks to come in and traffic the kid. So the parent, out of desperation, gives the kid away to orphanage X, Y, and Z, or ministry, Christian ministry X, Y, and Z, and the lack of oversight from the U.S. board and what actually happens on ground in Haiti is a huge gap, and then the kids just disappear. They just disappear into the ether.
I mean, speaking at least on my perspective on that as well, I'm the one that's making this statement, so I just want to say that. But it seems like too, it'd be pretty easy to infiltrate the boards and stuff and be able to basically get people to look the other direction on any situation you want as well.
I mean, like, look at Kanakuk. I don't know if you're familiar with the Kanakuk. What's
I was
happened?
just said, I'd love to dive deep on
I
it.
mean, like Kanakuk, Christian ministry, where thousands of kids every year is going to these Christian camps. And I won't name names, but they have a huge presence in Haiti. And Haiti is their money laundering scheme. They launder money through their orphanages, their footprints in Haiti, to become millionaires in their right here, abusing kids here, the same thing, and then sending voyeur freaking sex tourists down to Haiti to have their way with kids.
Can you deep dive it, like what it is and how it got uncovered and stuff? Because I'm sure there's a lot that are very unfamiliar with this, and it's obviously, I mean, when I first started, it's just an unbelievable situation. So
yeah. So I got to give Sean Ryan kudos on this one for opening the doors for Miss Phillips to come in and Elizabeth Phillips to come in and share her story and her testimony. And it's not my place to share that side of it, but long story short, her brother was trafficked out of Kanakuk Ministries here in the United States. And the after effect mentally of what the abuse caused in him led him to commit suicide. Um, so Miss Phillips started working on investigating Kanakuk US on that side. Now, there's links, there's other organizations that have been working OSINT on tying these organizations together because what happens, okay, so that Sean Ryan brings Miss Phillips on and blows the lid on, hey, this abuse is happening here in Missouri at Kanakuk, blah blah blah. But there's a lot of layers that wasn't revealed to that, like the money piece. How are these organizations able to essentially go underground and funnel millions of dollars? And Haiti is a huge access point of that, where you'll have investigations get opened up on abuse and scandal and trafficking on Kanakuk properties in Haiti. And when that stuff comes to light and it does get revealed in the US, the board of that nonprofit will say, "Oh, well, we'll handle it," and they'll close that nonprofit, they'll rebrand, and they'll just open back up in Haiti under another name. And it's like freaking rats, man. Like
Mm-hmm.
you create and shed light on the network of money transactioning on the sale of human beings. You shed light to it, and because of the ecosystem, the lack of the ability to prosecute in Haiti, and the lack of jurisdictional oversight for these ministries, that on the US based side, nothing ever happens. All they do is we'll close up shop, we'll start up another 501c3, we'll funnel the money through Haiti, and the system just continues to repeat itself. So yeah, there's many organizations that are tied to many Christian organizations in Haiti that are tied to the illicit trafficking of kids.
How often are you guys coming across those when you're actually operations as well? Like, is it shocking how deep that network goes?
It's your viewers would be shocked the depth of interlapping networks. I mean, Joe White, the founder, I mean, he's just the tip of the spear, the iceberg. Um, but what you see is a lot of incestuous relationships between organizations. As one thing allegation comes to light, they'll go underground and they'll rebrand, or they'll work to offset allegations with another organization. um, and a lot of what happens in Haiti never gets reported back to the US. So um, yeah, I'll share this point. Like, we worked um, a an investigation piece on some things that were happening in Haiti. Um, Hard lessons learned on my end. We This information, we confirmed it, sourced it, all from our operations in Haiti. Went to Homeland Security in Port-au-Prince and said, "Hey, this is what actually, it wasn't even Port-au-Prince. It was in the Dominican because HSI didn't have a footprint in Port-au-Prince at the time." We're like, "Hey, this is happening. Can we do something about it?" And they're like, "Well, for us to actually, we'll open an investigation, but the reality of us being able to bring witnesses in, we'd have to get them from these rural communities into the embassy in Port-au-Prince and blah blah blah." And I'm like, "I used to be a cop. Let me take the forensic interview. Like, let's work the system. I can get out to these communities. We don't have to bring this victim in to testify in an embassy in Port-au-Prince." Like, how terrifying. So we would present this information to the authorities with the evidence of a US based tie, and it wouldn't go anywhere. It's
Just
like,
immediately.
it just was like, "Yeah, we can't do anything about it." And I don't think, I'm not judging the HSI guys in the Dominican at this point, of like, they wanted to help. They wanted to do something, but the policy red tape of, I'm an HSI agent, I don't have any authorities in Haiti. I don't have the ability to get approval to go out and get the actual investigation, like take the witness statement that can actually be held up in a court of law in Miami to prosecute the transnational crime piece. There's a huge gap there. So like HSI wanted to help, but they couldn't because of the policy side. So we're like, all right, well, let's work around the system. So I went to another element within the DOJ in Miami. I'm like, hey, this is what's going on. Please do something about it. Presented it, and come to find out some of the processes or the people that we had named in that were complicit on the Kanakuk investigation. So like U.S. attorneys, FBI, district attorneys, sheriffs that are
Powerful
people that are named in these documents as sweeping these things under the rug. Me, like I said, hard lesson learned, have discernment on who you hand these things off to. Hand it off to someone named in it. It's like, oh, well, frick. Lesson learned. All right, reset and try again. But it's just, there's a huge disconnect. There's like, again, there's people within the DOJ, FBI, especially the Miami field office, that want to help. They want to do the right thing, but they're so limited. But there's also corruption. I mean, we're like, in the level of corruption is just at a level you can't even imagine. It's like, why is this not? Yeah, like Epstein list. Like, okay, if our own legal system won't do it, like the DOJ, where are the prosecutions? Going back to the Epstein list, like, you've had these now for how many years? We haven't seen a single indictment. So what are you doing? Who are you protecting?
Mm-hmm.
I'm genuinely just as curious as you are. Because at this point, it's like, why aren't these systems doing what they're supposed to do? Like, if I can come to you with case in point, proving a transnational crime piece, tying a US based organization to the sale of human beings, I know that the justice system only cares about what's the financial ramifications of this. Well, follow the money. It's where they're putting their money. So like, let's put some effort into actually getting some prosecutions on this.
Yeah.
Like, let's do something about it. And just, dude, man, when you're fighting human trafficking from true rescue to redemption of, let's create a practical solution that denies the physical space for the illicit network altogether. Let's come alongside the host nation government to provide training and capabilities so they can prosecute all the way to the aftercare piece. Man, you're fighting. It's like pushing boulders uphill at every turn.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is against you.
Do you think it's the most difficult aspect of it, though, is the idea that, and this seems like a circumstance that really was eye-opening, is that there's corruption back at home that's significantly enabling it, to a point that even if we're doing operations on the ground and making those dents, there's still someone here, that kind of the power players that scramble and move to the next one. Like the fact that we're supposed to be the country that's supposed to help, and yet within our own borders we have this type of corruption.
Yeah, man, we got a big uphill fight. I don't know really how to answer that, because honestly, we've been dealing with it since day one. I don't know what the answer is at this point. Outside of, if you're wearing a badge in the DOJ, do your stinking job. I mean, and I say, I dial it back. A lot of what we see, because we work on building counter human trafficking task forces within local law enforcement here too. It's not, I mean, corruption will always be there. Blatant corruption out of controlling the narrative, all of that. That's all that aside. A lot of what you see of why things don't lead to prosecution in the United States is bandwidth issues. I mean, you've got ICAC officers that are working crimes against children that have one detective working 2,000-3,000 cases. Like,
It's impossible.
it's impossible. Like, and you've got a federal system that is like so inundated with problems all over the world, like all over the place. So when it comes down to the localized level, it's not like, hear my heart. I mean, I was a cop myself. Like, I'm not blaming the cops.
Yeah.
I'm blaming the system of like, if we don't have, if it's a bandwidth issue, we need to allocate, instead of spending trillions of dollars overseas on endless wars. Like, hey, how about we actually combat the scourge of the illicit networks that's happening here? Let's pour some money into enabling and equipping our law enforcement officers to have the skills, the resources, the capabilities to actually combat these networks that are abusing and oppressing our own people. Like, again, federal government, you exist to protect us. Like, do something here. So it's a monster. It's a monster fight that there isn't a simple, here's the answer. Like, you got to take every problem that you're presented with and create a practical solution for every lane.
Yeah, and I feel like, again, too, the most difficult part adding to that is that it's not necessarily they need to own the whole system. They just need to own the right people. They need to be involved with the right people, because that's what can block policy. That's what can get something basically thrown out if they just have the right people on board. It's like, and again, like you hear it time and time again. I mentioned with the Epstein file thing where it came out that the FBI had to walk away from a human trafficking house they found in Mexico because it was connected to him. I can tell you for a fact, I've had FBI agents on the show. They didn't all go like, "This is a great thing, thank God." Like, they probably were pissed, confused, didn't understand what was going on. But some suit in a higher up says it. Like, they can't just make the decision themselves there, and that creates a ton of issues in itself.
Yeah, it does. It does. And that's where I do think it's in those situations where I do think that nonprofits can help fill the gap. I do believe that there is a path where we can help with the bandwidth issue, the capability issue. And because if policy isn't going to change, like, all right, well, we'll stop kicking that dead horse. Let's create a practical solution that can actually help. And that's one of the biggest things that I think Legacy is trying to step into, both international and stateside, is creating practical solutions to very complex problems. And I think I know we haven't really dived into it yet, but Legacy Relief Project isn't just a counter-human trafficking organization. We exist to solve complex problems all over the globe. Of like, here's a problem, let's create a plan, a practical solution to equip and enable the resources and the people on ground, work ourselves out of a job and work on to the next problem. Like, because the answer to whether you're working humanitarian crises in Sudan or Egypt, or supporting the underground church in Iran, or building rescue redemption pipelines in Haiti, whatever it might be, whatever problem God puts before us, the answer isn't big bearded tatted dudes. It's equipping and enabling the people on ground to solve their own problems.
Making stability.
Yeah.
Let's jump into some of the operations as well, so people can get a better picture of, what you guys do. I guess one of the first ones I'd love to jump into, I know we were talking about Haiti, but kind of your first rescue operation that you guys conducted down there.
Yeah. Great story. God's provision, his hand of protection over all of it. So, give a little bit of context. We started with one ministry in Haiti, just one problem, and worked our way up to a national network where we've got partners all over the country in a bunch of different spaces. And we're recognized as the only nonprofit organization that has the legal authorities to run counter-human trafficking operations on the Haitian government's behalf, specifically IBSR, which is their Child Protective Services. That doesn't come out of nowhere. Like, when everybody else is running away, saying it's too difficult to operate in Haiti, we're like, well, no, let's go back in and create practical solutions, one, for our partners that are still there, get them from the point of surviving to thriving, and then create practical solutions to very complex problems that lead to generational change. So about 2.5 years ago, we received a report about an unlicensed orphanage in Port-au-Prince that had been attacked by the gangs. They had come in and they had killed in the initial violence, 2 of the kids had been killed. They executed the executive director of the campus. And the gang leadership then told the assistant director, hey, if you go to anybody, we'll come back and we'll kill everybody. Now, understanding at this point, and we've kind of talked about it a little bit, that threat wasn't empty, but there was a lot more layers to that threat. The reality is the children that were at that campus were now under a threat of sex trafficking, labor trafficking, or organ trafficking, or death. So we received that initial report. We hadn't done any extractions or rescues at that point because, again, we weren't a counter-human trafficking organization. We were an organization that was attempting to pour the love and light of Christ into a very dark place. But we received this information and we're like, well, we got to act. We got to do something. So within 72 hours of that initial phone call, we had a team on ground in Port-au-Prince. We activated our human network in Port-au-Prince. We had surveillance on the campus where the kids were being held. And by the grace of God, we were able to exploit a gap in their security. This is the difference, but this is why I love Army SF and the difference between Navy SEALs. I got to love, not knocking the SEALs, but if the SEALs had gone in this situation, they would have just debt charged the wall and breach and clear and killed everybody on the campus and gotten out. But what I love about the mindset of Army SF is they very much are like, here's a problem. The door's locked. Well, let's see if the door is unlocked first before we put a breaching charge on it. So in that context with, our operational capabilities and the guys we had with us, we were able to exploit a gap, identify a gap between, changing the guard, for lack of a better term. Our Haitian network was able to move the kids to a location right across the street from the where the gangs were holding them, and that's when we went in and we were able to pull them out to a safe house in Port-au-Prince, and then we were able to acquire fixed-wing aircraft and fly them to our aftercare location in the south. And so these kids, their entire life, they've been told they're orphans. All of these kids also were HIV positive. So once they got on ground, they received the emergency medical care they needed. They got a hot meal. But more importantly, they were integrated into a system where the love and light of Christ was poured into them. They had the mental health resources, the education resources, the medical resources to really, truly not only survive, but to reclaim their identity in Christ. How does Christ see me? So out of those 27 kids, and our partner ministry also, they focus on reintegrations with families. These kids have been told they're orphans, but like I said earlier, more than likely they've got a family somewhere. So our partner works extensively to track down the origin of these kids, find their families, and ensure that the family system has this support system in place to be able to receive that kid back into the home and survive and thrive. So out of the 27 kids that we rescued, 21 of those kids have been reintegrated with their families. And what's really cool, I love this. We just found this out a few weeks ago. 2 of the girls that we rescued were 16 at the time of the rescue or the extraction. 16 at the time, destined to a life of sex, slavery, and death. Both of those girls just finished their first semester in nursing school.
Really?
And so now, not only has their life been completely upended and changed, they've reclaimed their identity, and they're learning a skill set and resource that they can now pour back into their local community.
That makes all the difference.
Yeah, you're creating generational change, and at the end of the day, every story matters. Mm-hmm. Every life matters. Like, can't put a price tag on human life. I truly mean that. Like, I don't care if it costs me $1 billion to save one kid.
It's worth it.
It's worth it. It really is. I mean, and that's something every warrior that has seen the depravity of what humans do, of life and death in war, will will agree with me on that statement. You
Hmm.
can't put a value on human life. Now there are some guys who are just straight up warmongers and will say, some people need, there are unredeemable lives, and me and that individual, we can argue that over a beer at some time. But most of the guys that I work with that have similar experiences and life transformation will agree, like, every life matters, whether it's the gang guy holding the gun or the kid he's oppressing.
Hmm.
Both life both life matters.
In furthering that point, or just kind of better understanding, have you had an opportunity to come face to face, have conversations with individuals that were the ones holding the guns?
Yeah, I've had guns pointed at my head.
Yeah, well, that I can imagine, but
Yeah,
um,
yeah, we've interfaced with gangs on a few occasions down there. Yeah, on one of our first trips, actually went through a checkpoint and had a gang member literally screaming with his AK. Actually, it was a Galil, pointing at my head, and I'm just like, "Hey, man, like, calm down.
we're good.
We're good. Like, let's have a conversation. Why do you want
Hmm.
to kill me? I'm here to help your nation." Like, and that's the other thing too. Like, people can sense, your where your foundation, your motivation is. They can sense if you're being raw and real, if you're there for the right reasons or not. And um, that, I mean, the power of relationship, just connection with human beings. The only reason why we're able to operate in Haiti is the power of relationship. While everybody else is running away and oppression, like, well, let's not run away. Let's work through some of these problems and build real relationships, because out of the genuineness of, I want to see you thrive.
So that's kind of what I was getting at more so is like, I had Jacek Walensky on and he talked about when he's with the Green Berets, broke his leg, ended up, he was essentially still in country, but like couldn't go out in operations. And then a Taliban fighter that came in and suicide bomb, but like it didn't detonate properly. He
Yeah.
survived. And he basically had conversations with him to better understand and found out the guy was essentially human trafficked into it, where they came
Yep.
in, they said, we'll kill your whole entire family unless
If you
you go
don't do,
do this.
yep.
Um, and I guess in situations where, like you said, there's times you got to go in and
You got to
take
face
them
evil.
out.
Yeah.
And then there's times where I don't know if you guys are able to arrest individuals or whatever it may be, but I guess that's what I'm saying. Have you had a chance to have a conversation or better understand the individuals on the other side of things? Because oftentimes the ones up top, we said like the gang leader in control, that's their version of Epstein, irredeemable. But
Yeah.
there's times that the guys are forced into it. And I'm just curious, I guess, like what has happened on that situation? And have you noticed sometimes it creates shifts and stuff? Like,
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'd say that that's the majority, that's the base of Legacy Relief Project operations, is meeting an individual where they're at and trying to understand what's influencing your actions, man. Like, why are you why are you acting this way? If it's a gang leader or if it's just a ministry leader, like, we meet them where they're at and we try and understand the complexity of the situation they're in, and then create practical solutions based off of that reality. I often say what makes Legacy Relief Project um, unique is our guys come out of a very special niche of special operations that thrive in creating human networks. And when you put a Legacy Relief Project operator on ground, whether it's in Egypt, Sudan, or Haiti, or even Colorado, building task forces, you're getting a guy who's looking at the physical space from a 360-degree lens. What do we actually, where are the capabilities? What's the geopolitical situation? Blah, 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 blah. But he's also looking at the spiritual lens. What's happening in the heart of this guy? And um, we really try and showcase the light and love of Christ in every scenario. I mean, God redeemed me from a place of darkness. If He redeemed me, then He can redeem you. So we try and meet that guy and that individual. So, long story long, long answer to your point, absolutely. I've got countless personal experience of just meeting guys in some sort of level of oppression and just saying, "Hey, man, ultimately, Jesus has a better way."
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
a way out of
there's a
this.
way out of this, man. There is a better way.
So I guess jumping to the Uganda mission, I know you glanced on that a little bit, where just how prevalent human trafficking actually is in Africa. I was going to say Afghanistan,
Yeah.
Africa, um, and kind of in a bit of a different circumstance where it's maybe not in the way it's pictured here in the West for sexual exploitation, but more child soldiers. And but I'm sure that circumstance is there as well. Can you maybe speak to that mission?
Yeah, and I gotta dial it back just a little bit too. When I was back at the State Department, I actually I just remembered this. I was actually witnessed the U.S. government complicit in trafficking of Ugandans in Iraq. And I know that's a buzzword, and it's not trafficking in the sense that we think. In 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 Iraq, specifically the embassy in Baghdad, back in the day, the Department contracted security companies to provide the static security of the physical campus, and they outsourced that to Ugandans. So
Really?
Ugandans were the ones who protect the embassy in Baghdad, not Americans. Ugandans. They're on the front lines. They're the ones watching the gates. They're the ones sitting in the towers working 15 hours a day, 7 days a week. So when I show up on my first rotation with State Department at the embassy in Baghdad, I wasn't directly on that contract that overseed it, but I witnessed what these guys do is these Ugandan guys, they've got no pathway to to success in their country. There's no way out. So this security company comes in with promises of like, hey, come and work for us for six months and we'll give you a pathway to citizenship in the United States. But what the reality is they'll end up coming to the signing this contract for a legal job, getting paid. They get paid pennies on the dollar for what they're doing. They end up in Iraq, and the first thing they do when they show up, we take their passport.
Really?
We take their passport. They can't go anywhere. That's trafficking.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the UAE does for
Yeah,
people that the slaves that are building like
yeah. I
all the
mean, there's a whole conversation we're gonna have on the hospitality side of what they're doing with these massive Chinese firms that are buying out all these hotels and elegant places. They're going to these underdeveloped nations and making promises of citizenships and pathways of financial freedom. And these folks take these jobs, they end up, in UAE, Dubai, what you name it, Iraq, and then they just disappear. Now, the US government side, I'll rephrase my statement. The government isn't trafficking Ugandans, but we are enabling a system that enables it. Like if you show up for a job in Iraq and you're working 7 days a week in the blistering sun and I don't have access to my passport, I can't just pick up and leave. I'm a slave. I'm locked into that at that point.
sorry, you just walk into Iraq and be like,
Yeah.
guys, I'm living here now.
Yeah.
I mean,
It
you
doesn't work
could,
that
but
way.
yeah, it's actually go good.
So, and then fast forward to our footprint. Um, yeah, we actually deployed a team into Uganda as a mobile medical mission. So we sent a team in of former, special operations medics. They went in and just some really good nurse practitioners and doctors and what not doctors, but um, emergency trauma care dudes. And the idea was to go out to the rural communities where access to medical care is pretty limited, and provide a medical camp and then just build awareness because we don't know what we don't know. How's the slave trade working in Uganda? What is it overt? Is it underground? What are the systems? Because we just didn't know. So we sent a team in. They were there for a little over a week, and yeah, in like 3 days, they operated mobile medical clinics and served like over 1,000 people. Uh, like 49 people came to know the Lord. It was God just completely opened the doors, and that was when we really started building awareness of what is happening along the Congo Ugandan border. We have not been able to send a team back just because of financial limitations. We've really had to scale back our operational footprint to Colorado and Haiti just because I mean, running a nonprofit, you have a lot of flexibility, but you can only operate as far as your paycheck
Yeah, profit.
or your bank account.
Yeah.
Um, and the reality is it's hard to raise funds for places like Haiti and Uganda and things like this. So, but we have a pathway forward in Uganda that we want to capitalize on.
Mhm.
Um, we have a method. I'm not going to come out and say what our plan is. It kind of defeats the point. But we have a path forward to work that border issue. And I'll say it's a generational one. It's to equip and empower local communities with micro ecosystems, and um, again, pouring the love and light of Christ into that area too. So we're hoping that provision opens up and we can get teams back in there. I mean, the same thing. We've got opportunities in Sudan. We've
I
got
was just about to bring that up. I was gonna say, what's your outlook on that? Because that's something that
dire. Like, I mean, everything we're seeing right now is so Middle East focused, Iran, but the reality, the Sudanese civil war, I think the last estimates, there's close to 3 million refugees along the Egyptian border. They're sitting in camps, tents, tent cities, millions of people on the border of Egypt. Egypt doesn't know what to do with them. They don't have the financial bandwidth to do anything. The the United Nations, I think that they have a limited footprint right now, but again, they're focused on other operations. And we could have a whole discussion on the UN and my opinions on that. Um, so we have a pathway in there to have an impact, both to support the medical needs and to identify the trafficking and the oppression that's happening out of those refugee camps. Because when you put people in crisis, all nature of evil comes to the light.
Mhm.
So every nature of evil that you can imagine is happening in those camps.
I mean, the videos I've seen come
It's
out of Sudan
insanity.
as well. It's just a genuine genocide.
And how can we create so much noise and be upset about things in one place and then just completely ignore millions of people? Like, don't get me wrong, the atrocities that happened in Gaza are atrocities, and they need to be at the face of the public. The public needs to know what's happening, and whether it's Gaza, Iraq, Iran, all of it needs to be there needs to be light shed on all of it. But like, why do we pick and choose on what matters to us? Like 3 million people. Same thing that's happening in like this one. You'll never see a news segment on this, but Jordan, along the Jordan Iraqi and the Syria connection there's
Mhm.
refugee camps where there are truly ISIS breeding grounds. I mean, and nobody knows this. Like, and Jordan is like, well, as long as they stay out there, and they're literally just in these tent cities along the borders. Um,
And ISIS is taking individuals from there and
yeah,
trying to like,
ISIS is going to manipulate that situation. Like, all right,
yeah,
if the Jordanian government can't do anything about it, Lord knows the international community is not going to do it about it. They don't even know they're there.
mhm.
So yeah, we'll come in and we'll recruit and manipulate and oppress in those areas. Absolutely, like absolutely.
And
So
it's
you
because no one wants to touch that problem
nobody
too.
wants to touch it. And like Jordan, spent a lot of time in Jordan. Again, it's not a willing, like it's not a we don't want to do something about this. It's just they don't have the bandwidth. Like Jordan doesn't have any natural resources.
Yeah.
They don't have the ability to just be like, all right, we need water to these people that are on in a desert dying, lack of food, lack of water. We barely have any to begin with. So it's these complex humanitarian crises are where they create the chaos for these illicit networks to thrive.
Mhm.
It's it's nasty and gnarly.
So I want to talk a bit about the organ trafficking network that you kind of briefly mentioned. And again, like I know we're covering a ton today, and I
Yeah,
think like,
yeah.
and that's critical because, like I said, I think part of the, as you know, speaking of Uganda specifically, it's like there's definitely not an awareness for the average American
Absolutely
And
not.
that's the hope of, us in the podcast. We talk about all these specifics because then people can realize the depravity, the extent of what's actually happening globally,
Hmm.
and we can get that type of support behind it versus, again, like, and I'm sidetracking here and I'll bring it back in a sec, but like I was talking to um somebody of an older generation about the Epstein list. They're
Yeah.
like, well, I don't give a shit. They're like, it's probably not real. And I realized a lot of people in their head either one, don't want to acknowledge how much evil is really out there. And two, it's a lot easier to push away from the situation than confront it.
Yeah. To that, can I give a story on
Yeah.
that? Just to shed light of, no, this is very real and it's happening in your own backyard. Um, won't name the state. I'll say it was west of here. Um, we were presented with we weren't even equipped to handle this. Um, we weren't working counter trafficking in the United States at this point, really, and it was presented to us. But this is happening in communities all across the United States at a level you can't imagine. We were introduced to a young woman. She was 21 at the time that I was introduced to her. Um, but the reality was she was trafficked by her own parents since she was 10 or 11 years old. Um, Filmed as she was raped by men, as she was sold by her parents to be raped and filmed. She was flown internationally to be gangbanged and raped um, by her parents. Her mom was in the room filming every event. Her dad was um, essentially the pimp, but the reality is the public face of this family, you would have thought that they were your stereotypical white picket fence American. They went to church every Sunday. They were on their church board of council, like the mom served in the men's ministry there. The dad was a fire chief, a respected fire chief in the local community in this state. And this was happening and it's happening in your own backyard. So like to blatantly say, oh, it's all a lie and it's not happening, it's probably fake. I'm sorry, that's just ignorant. And because it is happening. The level of evil we see that's over in places like Sudan and Iran and Syria and in Haiti, that same level of evil and depravity is happening here. It's just we don't care to see it. We're like, well, we're America. We're better.
Yeah, we hide it better.
Yeah, we hide it better. But that evil will come to light.
Mm-hmm.
The darkness will come to the light. And yeah, it's dude, evil is everywhere. Evil is everywhere.
Well, I guess it's a good transition and outside of that situation, it may be that, but what do you think is the most depraved network that you guys or situation you guys have come across?
Organ trafficking coupled with satanic ritual abuse.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know how to process it even to this day. I mean, you've got a child who is truly innocent. You sexually abuse them, then you put them into a system where to receive some sort of occult power, you abuse them in the name of Jesus, in Jesus's name, which is mind blowing to me. The I SRA is a whole world that people, if people knew what was happening in that space, like you would be shocked. But then at the end of it, you sacrifice the child, and then the organs are taken and integrated into a system to where at the point where it's at the end user, you can't tell the difference between an illegally harvested organ and a legally harvested one.
Mm-hmm. That
System, burn it to the ground. That's the one that I'm like, we have to do something.
And where are you seeing that?
That's specifically to Haiti and DR.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is very prevalent along the Haiti DR border.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird, man. Like the voodoo culture down there, demonic worship is so integrated into their culture. Like you'll have a Catholic priest, an ordained Catholic priest, preaching from the pulpit on a Sunday, and at night he serves as a voodoo witch doctor, and that's completely okay and accepted. I mean, I've there was one time I had to do a movement from Port-au-Prince up to the North Plateau. Would not recommend it.
I can
um,
imagine.
but it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm working like with our national police partners. They're escorting me and some equipment up to the north. And it's about 2 o'clock in the morning. We come up into this mountain pass. So there's this mountain village. There's no lights because there's no power at all. But there's this bonfire in the middle of the road, right in the middle of the highway. You get up there, the entire city is dancing in a trance around an open fire, and there's buckets filled with blood all around, and everyone is just in this trance. They don't even notice that you're driving through. That blew my mind.
Jeez.
There was another one we did where we got invited to this rural community. You could only get it to by boat. We walk up and they're like, "Hey, we want to show you our town." We get escorted up through the town, and you start feeling like this eerie feeling like we're the only white dudes anywhere to see. Like this is getting a little sketchy. And you get up and you go up to their Catholic shrine, and they're literally the entire community is up there celebrating a voodoo ritual where they're freaking sacrificing chickens and pouring the blood over them. They're like, "Come be a part of it." And I'm like, "Yeah, man, I'm good. Like, appreciate you trying to tie me into your culture and all, but like," and it's just normal to them. And it's demonic worship. It's straight up demonic worship. And it integrates itself into what we talked about before, the organ trafficking trade. And I'm not very well versed to speak on SRA in the United States. I've got guys within my organization that are way better equipped to tell stories and statistics of that. I mean,
Yeah,
our
stateside, we're gonna get him on.
yeah, our stateside coordinator, Aaron, he former FBI, 18 years, HRT. He worked this stuff. He's very, very intimately aware of the SRA abuse that's happening in our communities here. But what I've seen internationally, it's just like, this is straight up Satanism. Like that's the only way I can compute it and make sense of it in my mind. It's the straight up worship of the occult, and in that world, to gain power and influence, there has to be a blood sacrifice. So it's happening. These are not stories in a movie. This is real, and it's happening 90 miles from our coast.
See, and this is actually the question.
And in our own coast, in the United States, happening everywhere.
I was gonna ask, like, that was the next. Is I talked with Rick about this because he's saw how the occult's aligned to everything for hundreds of years. I mean, it's always in all these weird areas. It's not when you look at secret societies with God, now I'm blanking on the area in California where they all go to God, with the owl god. They have the owl and they burn the owl. It's
not Burning Man, is it?
No, it's
Burning Man's a concert.
Shows my ignorance. Which is its own kind of weirdness. But and there's tons of powerful people that go to that, and it's well known satanic, not satanic, but occult rituals. And then again, like you read through the Epstein files and everything you're laying out there in the files, they're doing that, and there's accounts of them doing that, and I think that's when people read it, they're like, well, this is too fanciful. Like, but it does happen globally. And there seems to be some cross connection. Like, I guess I was going to ask, like, what's your perspective on the fact that consistently seems to pop up in line with a lot of these situations as well?
Well, I have to revert back to my faith because it's the only way I can make sense of it. So I believe that there's powers and principalities, like spiritual domains, that actual spiritual entities that have power over regions, physical regions. But it doesn't start from, like, Haiti didn't become Haiti overnight. Like, Haiti used to be the breadbasket of the Caribbean. Like it was the hotness. It was the Silicon Valley of the
Extremely wealthy.
Caribbean. Extremely wealthy. How do we get from there to that? It's the acceptance of evil. It's letting the little pieces of identity to erode and morality to erode. And I think that's where we are in a very dangerous and slippery slope in the United States. Is we're seeing, like, going back to our prostitution stuff, like we're seeing the very fabric of morality erode before our own eyes, and it's happening at a scale that is it's happening faster than we can keep up with it. Like, and it's here. It's here. This is again my point on Haiti. Haiti didn't end up that way. Like, and if we're not careful, like, I don't know. I don't know what the outcome is in the United States, but if these things are happening behind closed doors and we don't do anything about it and reset and get on our knees and one, ask for forgiveness and repent, like, Lord, have grace and mercy on us. I don't know if we don't deserve it at this point, but we're in for a pretty rough future, I think.
Mhm.
I really do.
I tend to agree. Well, that's why I think, again, like, even the Epstein files should be the biggest conversation piece until we figure it all out. And I think what worries me, and I'd be interested in hearing your perspective, is I did say the one thing we have to be careful about is that if I was in charge, whoever is kind of behind, pulling the strings, this is a great time to reset. You let it all get out there. Because let's be honest, the names that are popping up right now, Clinton's, Bush, you mentioned, like, the various people, European power, they're all kind of out of power now. They're becoming less and less relevant. And then you killed Epstein, you got him out. When I said to Rick, and I imagine, I mean, you've probably seen the same thing. As soon as he was dead, they probably had the new guy ready the next day.
He's already rocking and rolling.
And they're getting all the new power players. And so there has to be, like, not only transparency, but an ability to recognize that this is happening in the background. Because if we just kill all the old and say, Clinton, we got you out, Trump's involved, Trump, we got you out, whatever, get all those guys out. But then it's like, okay, cool, we did transparency, we're good. It's like, no, but we know there's still some bullshit going on. We need to, it's like a weed. You need to get all the way down to the roots and kill it.
Yeah, I think we've got a very tough season ahead of us. But if we want to hold on to a hope for a future in the United States, we have to have these tough discussions, and we have to face the consequences of what we have allowed to happen in our own backyard. And going back to your point, I think that the only path forward right now, regardless of you sit left, right, center, I don't care, is transparency. And let me be very clear. In no way am I endorsing violence, civil war. I am completely opposite of that. I am saying transparency, and let us rally behind each other as Americans, recognizing that we're Americans first, to face the outcome together. Like, that's the only path forward. Like, and it's going to be a turbulent season. And who was it? I think it was Pam Bondi who came out and said if the files came to public knowledge, the entire system would collapse.
Yeah.
Okay. So now where are you placing your fear? You're putting your hope in, or you're not your fear. Where are you placing your hope? You're putting your hope in government, or you're putting your hope in God? I place my hope and trust in God. And I believe that if you do the hard right instead of the easy left, God will protect and provide in that space. So it's the same thing. Like, I've had to face these difficult conversations and seasons in my life too, where, I could have hid it. I could have hid marital affairs and things like that. Instead, like, no, I'm going to face this head on and deal with the consequences, because it's the right thing to do. And we have to do the right thing as a nation. We have to, like, we used to stand for something. And I'm really frustrated right now, and I'm not the only one. I know the veteran community, the law enforcement community, most of my brothers in arms in that space are very, very similar, feeling the very similar of like, look, we fought for this nation. We're not going to burn it to the ground.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're saying the system will fall apart if
Yeah.
there's transparency,
That's a problem.
that's probably not a system we want to be a
Right.
part of.
Yeah, and
Let's be
like
transparent here.
I believe the Constitution's powerful enough to survive whatever the outcome and follow up is. I do. Is it going to be turbulent? Absolutely. And again, I am not endorsing violence in any capacity. I want to make that abundantly clear. I believe that there is a path forward where Americans, left of the aisle, right side of the aisle, can come to a room like you and I are today and have a healthy discord, have a healthy conversation where we can find a pathway in the middle. But if there are folks that are complicit in these things, in positions of power, there needs to be accountability, like, and transparency. And yeah, it's a very interesting time to be alive. Very interesting time to be alive right now.
Well, that's what, and like I mentioned, the podcasts I think are such a critical kind of piece right now, is because the more exposure there is to this topic, and I kind of want to dive into more stateside what's happening, is the more light that's shined to this area, the more people recognize just how much of an issue it is, just how widespread it is, just how deep it is.
Yep.
And then there's actually a push to solve it. We're so easily just put our head in the ground and look past issues because we deem them not relevant to our day to day.
I love that you said that. Like, for there to be actual change, guess what? You're going to have to get off the couch, and you're going to have to do something that probably makes you feel uncomfortable. Get in front of your politicians and say, do something about this. Like what we're doing in Colorado, fighting this prostitution. Like, you've got to go and make your voice known. Even though the system, we've knocked a lot on the system today, I do still believe in it. I believe in what America stands for. So we have to, I'm a big proponent of, especially in the age that we're living in, you need men that are willing to step into the gap regardless of the consequences. Face the fight in front of us head on, regardless of your 401k getting hurt, regardless of your position and influence within your community. If you piss off some folks, if you create discord or discontent, you lose some friends, but you're standing in the healthy middle, the path of truth, which again, I believe in, there's only one truth on this earth, then there will be a path forward. There is, but Americans are asleep. We're comfortable. We're asleep at the wheel. We're sitting in our air-conditioned houses with our, like I said, our comfortable 401ks and our pensions, and probably, dude, none of that stuff will save us.
I also think there's an issue too where, and this kind of brings me to a secondary question where I'm curious to see how much you think there is complicity with FBI and CIA, but I think a lot of people, especially older generations, still look at when America was at its peak and hope that's still where we are. And it's like, our structure will always remain the same, and the structure clearly is a great one and one that provides stability, freedom, etc. But the systems within that structure, that's what's slowly killing the country. And it's like, if you plug your ears and pretend we're still where we once were, we're never going to be able to get back there.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. You asked, that is a great question. Again, I'll probably piss some people off on this. I think that there needs to be some reform and some policy shakeups within the CIA for sure on how we conduct ourselves in that space. When it comes to complicity within the FBI, I honestly can't tell anymore. Like, I pray to God that there aren't dudes wearing that badge that are complicit in washing away things, but right now the evidence seems to be pointing that way. Um, I think I think that there's a path forward for a leaner DOJ,
Yeah.
um, that gives more power and capabilities for prosecutions and support in defense of the Constitution to the states and to local law enforcement. Because at the end of the day, there's such a disconnect on like a federal agent, federal jurisdiction to the guy walking a beat in Colorado Springs. Like, honestly, I want that dude in the Springs investigating a crime that's taking place, even if it's a federal crime. Like, it needs to be handled at that level. Um, so I think that there's a healthy conversation without breaking the system, without the system burning to the ground. I think that there's a path forward, but there needs to be people in positions of leadership in those entities at DOJ, FBI, HSI, um, Homeland specifically, that are going to do the hard right, um, instead of the easy left, to keep their job or their pension or whatever it might be,
And their boss happy.
or their boss happy. So yeah, I think there's a path, and I think that path is reserved for guys that are a lot smarter than me. But there's men and women that God has gifted with incredible abilities to build and create, and I think that there's hope for sure.
So you pause there in a sec with the CIA question that I'm just kind of, I think it's pretty obvious for anyone, especially that's watched the show with the people we've had on, circumstances we've discussed and everything, is intelligence is an extremely complex system in itself. I mean, you're dealing with countries, Russia, China, Iran, Cuba, Mossad, and Israel, for one, who aren't always going to play fair. In fact, they'll never play fair. They're going to play to win. And
We don't play fair either.
I was going to say, and that creates this, as you mentioned with the Epstein case, for most, it's like a very typical honeypot situation. What level, because I got to imagine the CIA in one way or another is, they may not say in, on a mic giving a speech in Washington saying, yeah, like we endorse underage children, being used in honeypot operations, but it's such a powerful tool that you have to imagine there's some circumstances where that's happening. How much do we kind of weigh that structure of morality versus this international chess match that we're playing with actors that more or less don't care?
Yeah, that's a very tough question, because we are facing some very real adversaries that aren't playing fair either, who are coming after our way of life. We've pissed off a lot of people. Um, so I can only speak to the intelligence community from the outside in. I was never a staffer there. Um, I've only worked in that sphere, from an outside in, working alongside some stuff in that capacity. But what I do understand from my experience in that space is everything is so compartmentalized. Um, Protections and boxes and boxes and boxes to keep knowledge contained. Um, and that's very dangerous. It can create a lot of power, because who controls the information in that space or whatever it might be. So I think, um, the original mandate of the agency was to protect American citizens abroad and have the information we need to defend the nation against our foreign adversaries. Um, I know that's a super broad, a very, very broad mission set, but I think we've lost, I think it's lost its way, and it's more, again, my opinion is just, again, from an outsider, but I think we've created us, that system has created an ecosystem of supporting and enabling manipulation and control at levels that are unsustainable.
Mhm.
So there needs to be, I don't think that there needs to be, like, I'm not advocating that there needs to be transparency of how we operate in that space. Obviously, that defeats the purpose. We have to protect how we collect and things like that, and our assets on ground, both here and abroad, all that. But there needs to be a reform in the morality of how we conduct ourselves.
Mhm.
There, there needs to be significant reform in the morality of policy decisions and how that filters down to on ground operations.
Yeah, because I was to say when you look at someone like Epstein, it's like that should have been wrapped up in like 2002 or something like.
Well, and if there's ever an argument that says that the agency was ignorant of Epstein, like, what a joke! Like,
Yeah.
seriously.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's the documents are. This is what I mean. It's like we're barely scratching the surface on it, and they're showing so much. And like I mentioned earlier, 50% in 2019 disappeared. 50% isn't getting released already. Of that 50%, it's, and I think it's such a important conversation because again, you're at the forefront of it. You're seeing the impact it has on the communities, the
Yeah.
impact it has on the individuals, and for an agency, it's again one that's so siloed. So there's an operation that's happening that majority of the agency has no idea about, will never even know about. For them, it's easy to justify and say, well, it's national security. And it's like, they're,
That's a cop out.
yeah,
Bullshit. I'm sorry, but it's bullshit because the the job of the intelligence community is to protect the American people. And if you have knowledge of these things happening and American citizens are involved as victims, which we've seen that, um, you have a moral obligation to do something.
Mhm.
Don't cop out on national security. Like, no, don't play that card. Again, take the hard right. Like an example of this, like I get really frustrated in the counter trafficking space because there's a lot of organizations out there, because counter human trafficking is a buzzword, and there's a lot of organizations doing a lot of really great work, but you've also seen organizations come crashing to the ground because they put their guys in morally compromising positions. They say things like, "Oh, well, for us to build information on what's going on inside that brothel, we got to put our guy inside the brothel." But no, you don't.
yes,
That's lazy. Like, you can put, I can get a guy into a room without putting my guy into the room. I can get the same information out of that room from the people that are going there anyways to engage in those depraved activities. You just got to find the leverage point and push it. And that keeps your guys from witnessing and being in a position that's compromised to where now I'm witnessing sex acts, or I'm in a room where you've got to perform with a girl in order to build trust or whatever it might be. Like, come on, man. Like, we can do a much better job. And you see that like filtering in this national security discussion. Like, it's a lot harder and takes a lot longer work to get the information out of that room without putting your guy in it. It'd be a lot easier just, yeah, go in and buy one,
Mhm.
buy a girl. Um, but do the hard right, take the time to build the network, build the information package, the systems that lead to actual positive outcomes, and protect the morality of yourself and the institution. That's what we try and do at every angle at Legacy Relief Project. And I would encourage our intelligence community to do the same.
So let me ask about with stateside missions. from your exposure early on here, and I know you said like you've been more focused on Haiti lately, and like I told him, like I'm going to talk to as many people in
Yeah.
the team as I can. But from your exposure, like what does it look like stateside, and especially again with things like 2020 where we've had millions of migrants that come through, and the cartel is more powerful than ever. To what extent is it really kind of expanded in the US?
Um, there's layers upon layers of the problem here in the United States. Again, like I said earlier, the level of evil that we see abroad is happening here. It's just behind closed doors. And the systems that enable trafficking of kids here in the United States, it's an evolving battlefield to where I could tell you like, hey, this is how they're doing it today, and then a week down the road it could change. Perfect example. There's a platform called Skip the Games. It's a prostitution. It's like an escort website. It's been taken down and like lawsuited. I don't know how many times at this point, but it just keeps on rebranding to skipthegames.net or .com or whatever. And this is a platform where children are being sold um, on it. Like, and so that's just one piece of the puzzle. Then there you've got like the overarching network that may be happening above that, like the Pornhubs, the the OnlyFans. I don't. I'm sorry. I'll make the hard line in the sand. OnlyFans is it's a grooming.
For
It's a
sure.
it's a grooming
Yeah.
capability, and there are girls being trafficked on OnlyFans. I mean, there there's a few testimonies out there. I can't think of her name right now, but she was an OnlyFans girl that the only reason why she ended up having an OnlyFans account was she went on a like a Tinder date or something, and the guy kidnapped her for 3 months. 3 months, this girl was trafficked, and he convinced her the only way for to let her go was to start an OnlyFans account, and he was like filtering funds from her account. And dude, it's just like all of these systems all of these systems are complicit and enabling the grooming and the sale of trafficking of kids. So the level of evil and depravity in the network here in the United States is at a level that our law enforcement partners they just can't handle it.
It almost
It's
seems more sophisticated, which is like a terrible word to say for it, but instead of it being
yeah.
out in the open, they've found ways to operate with technology and behind legal
Well,
closed doors.
I'm going to butcher the numbers, and I would encourage you to if you can find the actual numbers afterwards. But
I'll
I
toss it
think
up.
I think the actual statistics, the financial bandwidth, just to give some context, every law enforcement agency in the United States, whether it's a local municipal PD all the way up to the federal DOJ, their entire operating budget, okay, federal outside of it, we'll talk state and local, is like $350 million for all law enforcement activities in the United States. 350 million. And that's anything that you can possibly imagine under the law enforcement umbrella. Trafficking and sale of human beings is like a $2.2 trillion entity and organization. It's like the follow the money fight. It's an impossible fight. So what Legacy's trying to do in when it comes to fighting trafficking stateside is essentially to become a clearinghouse for capabilities and resources that we can come alongside our law enforcement partners to assist in bandwidth issues and capability issues. Because you'll have these cops that are phenomenal on investigations work, but it's all postured to hit the low hanging fruit, the predator that shows up to rape a 14-year-old girl. And then that there's not the bandwidth capability wise or investigations wise to actually take it a step further and identify the network. Who is facilitating the sale of this 14-year-old girl? Sometimes it may just be a parent or grandpa or a random pimp, but there's more than likely there's going to be some sort of network apparatus that is enabling this in an area. So what we want to do is create task forces with law enforcement. Legacy is not doing the operations because we're not sworn. We're not law enforcement officers. We're just ex-cops and ex-soft dudes that want to stay in the fight and do the right thing. Do the hard right. It's really what we're trying to do is pull capabilities, resources underneath the umbrella of Legacy Relief Project, come to a local municipality and say, hey, let's lock arms with all of the sheriff's departments around you, all of the city municipalities around you, break down the barriers of isolationism of this is my jurisdiction. Nope, we can't do this. This fight is way too big. We got to work together, create joint task forces, and then leverage financial capability, bandwidth, resources, technology, all that can come alongside our law enforcement partners to identify and, more importantly, prosecute the illicit network. And then we are working extensively too to build that rescue to redemption pipeline to make sure we have the aftercare resources available as well. Because I am a firm believer, and a hard line in the sand for me is you've got no I guess, right being in the counter human trafficking space if you don't have the aftercare network to support extracting kids or women victims out of a trafficking situation, if you don't have the resources for the long fight ahead of reintegrating them into society.
I couldn't agree more on that, because that's, I mean, again, like talking the Epstein case, just because it's the most well known.
Yeah.
A lot of the women that have come forward from that, a lot of them have fallen to suicide, drug addiction, or re-trafficked,
or fell into prostitution.
Yeah, and then if you're, and this pops up in the files a ton, if you're a trafficker, you want that to happen because then their believability falls drastically because they're a drug user, they're a prostitute, they're this and that. Reintegration is the most critical thing, because that's also how you get them to come forward and help isolate what these networks are and where they're operating as quick as possible.
Well, you gotta rebuild and reclaim the identity. And we're not Bible thumpers throwing Bibles at people, which I would love to do. But that's not who we are. It's truly just showing up and meeting those individuals where they're at and just being present, pouring the love of Christ into them, showing that you care about them as a human being, and allowing Jesus to do the hard work of reclaiming their identity. And I can speak truth in that, because though I wasn't trafficked, my life of redemption and reclaiming my identity, the only way I'm sitting here today is because of the work that God did in my heart. The only reason why Legacy Relief Project exists is because of what God did and gave me an identity that now the second, third order effects are tangible and real. So when it comes to the aftercare space, you've got to have that robust apparatus that is willing to meet a victim where they're at and stay for the long, difficult fight uphill to reclaim their identity.
And just kind of, again, discussing some of the sophistication you're seeing stateside. Have you guys been looking at, and I've been hearing this really pop up a lot recently, like some of the stuff that's happening in video games like Roblox or Discord servers, where they're basically getting face-to-face game to game, but they're getting direct interaction with kids 8 years old, 9 years old, and being able to
these grooming platforms are insane. And it's kind of to my skip to games point. If you were to take Roblox down tomorrow, another platform would pop up tomorrow. I mean, I saw one of our guys who's works a lot of our stateside stuff. He showed me a tip or an investigation report on how these two girls were groomed and trafficked off of PayPal.
Really?
Like freaking PayPal. Like how? Like I've got PayPal on my phone, but I didn't even know there was a chat feature on PayPal. To the point, like we have to be wise as a serpent and gentle as a dove. But when I say wise as a serpent, we have to think like these illicit networks, and we have to meet them where they're at. We have to have the awareness and the ability to say, okay, this is how the illicit network is grooming these kids. This is how they're identifying them and then leading them into victimhood. we have to be wise enough to create systems to counter that at every level.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it's I'm not very well versed on the roadblocks, the tenders, and then the um skip like the what's the other one?
Have you heard of 764 by
I
chance?
have, yeah.
I'm trying to have a journalist on to
Yeah,
discuss that in detail because that's one of the
came out of nowhere too.
it's
Uh,
spreading
and
rapidly.
there it is. Um, so again, like these things that hide in the dark, they'll pop up and use whatever resource they have available, and they'll create a resource too if it doesn't exist. So we have to. Our law enforcement partners have an uphill battle because it's always playing defensive. We haven't been able to be proactive, um, to build proactive defenses. It's always reactive, and um, we're really trying to come alongside law enforcement stateside and abroad on creating practical solutions that we can get them out of that reactive mode to where it's no longer reactive, it's proactive.
So wrapping up, how does one recognize whether it's a kid listening to this, a woman listening to this, even a male? Like, how does one recognize that they're currently at risk or in a situation where someone's trying to groom them for trafficking?
Well, I say if your kid's got a phone, you've already got a very increased risk, because the initial grooming probably it starts before an actual person reaching out and chatting to that kid. It starts with the culture that we live in. Um, so one, you got to protect your kids, um, from the culture of evil and blatant sexuality at every level. I mean, kids are being groomed so early on now that their only value comes from their sexual identity, um, and that ties into the general identity stuff too. But um, honestly, just as parents, I'm not a parent, but you got to have a proactive defense too in your home. Start with that individual tablet, individual phone. Um, get them off of the get them off the chat systems, man. Like I grew up, you know, running through the woods and fishing. like, uh, maybe it's time for us to get back off of the screens, reclaim that a little bit because the screens are where the cultural fight, ideological fight is at its forefront. I mean, we're seeing fifth generational warfare at every moment, whether it's your child or up to me. Like you're getting filtered information, on your platform.
Mhm.
So um, put up systems to protect your kids in that capacity. Like just limit what they have access to, limit to what they have, um, what platforms they have, because just having the phone, they're at risk.
Awesome. Well, if you want to let people know kind of some opportunities to get involved and help out with legacy relief and, what you're hoping to look for in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate again the opportunity to come on and speak, but just to like make it real clear, Legacy Relief Project is a ministry first. It's we exist to serve the least, the last, and the lost. We're comprised of some really good dudes and ladies that come from a pretty diverse skill sets, mostly former Army SF. We've got some federal law enforcement officers, some intel guys. Um, but our heart is to serve, and our heart is to go and work through the most complex problems across the globe in the darkest, most hostile region of the world, pouring the light of Christ in everything we do. So, the biggest thing that we need is prayer, because we are, again, I'm a guy who sits in the camp of we don't fight against flesh and blood; it's against powers and principalities. So, prayer warriors, we need folks that will be consistently praying for our operators, whether it's stateside or abroad. And just for the ideological fight that we're up against. It's a spiritual one, and um, we need folks to pray through that for sure. Um, and then yeah, like I kind of hinted at before, we have a global vision. We want to be a resource for ministries that are trying to operate in the difficult areas across the globe. or organizations that want to go in and help for generational change. We want to be an organization that can create those pathways. Um, and for us to deploy the level of capability that we hope to, we need financial partners, and we need we need them. And what's really cool, over the tenure of Legacy, we're coming up on our 4-year anniversary. We've never gotten that big seed fund check. And I'm very thankful for that, because God has taught us to be good stewards of the resources He's given us. We've learned to do a lot with a little. And so, ways to partner. I would encourage your group, if anything we've said this morning or today, resonates, go on legacyreliefproject.com. If everyone listening to this just did $1 recurring donation, like just $1,
That'd be pretty
like
solid.
that would fund our entire budget. I mean, you've got guys, you've had, some of your episodes go up into the millions of followers. Like, we're not asking for much. $1 recurring would go a long way. But if you feel more, time, talent, or treasure, reach out to us. Our website's legacyreliefproject.com.
Is there any specific like donation links or anything they go to? Or is everything located
It's
on
all
the
right
site as
there
well?
on the banner. I think we've got a partner or donate on the tab.
We'll have it
And
all linked below as well, but
yeah,
just
yeah, and we need all the help we can get. We're a small organization. We're lean, but we're extremely nimble. So if you got experience in this space and you want to get involved, reach out to us. We've got to contact us too. Um, and we need men and women that are willing to pick up a shovel and go to work, because like I said, we've got a global vision for this thing. We really want to be a resource for the least, the last, and the lost, and we can't do it on our own. So
well, couldn't agree more, man. Like I said, I'm going to do everything in my power on the show to help you guys as much as I can, whether that's introductions, bringing you guys back on. And I encourage everyone that's watching to please go to the links below and help out any way you can. I mean, we have some direct hitters, so if you're interested in getting directly involved, I encourage that as well. But for me personally, I think the next 5 to 10 years is going to be very prosperous for you guys, and even at some of what we discussed today and the opportunity and where you guys see yourself and the vision that you have, it's one that can really change the world, and I'm excited to see it grow.
again, I appreciate the opportunity, man. I'm looking forward to for you to bring some of our other guys on and not hear me talk.
Oh,
Just
you're going to be back
yeah,
though.
yeah,
You as well.
yeah. So,
Awesome, Ben. We appreciate it, bro.
thank you.